Welcome to the Foul Play YouTube channel. Open mic number 201. Sorry for a little bit of delay there getting going, but I was waiting to see if we had another one or two join us for tonight's reading of Mr. Gene Kusche's Deposition, finishing that up. But everybody apparently has got other things going on, so Sheree and I are going to make an attempt here. That should be okay.
Yes, we will.
That should be okay. It's, we got, I think, probably half or better done last week. So you're just going to hear mine and Sheree's voice, including the side lawyers that are involved here. I can't remember exactly how many, but I'll scroll up here when I get this on screen and we can take a look. I think there's four. The typical lawyers, Cavelli and Bascom. I can't remember the other two. Anyway, hope everyone's doing okay today. It looks like there's still some storming going on, and mainly it looks like, from what I saw on the radar, East Texas and some in Oklahoma around where Kay lives. Haven't heard from Kay, but I'm sure he has, so she's okay, and glad Susan's okay too, so that worked out really well. So anyway, how you doing tonight, Sheree?
I'm doing great. How about
Good.
you?
Oh, not bad, It's been just a cloudy, rainy day here. We didn't get any of the wild stuff. I heard some thunderstorms, but that's nothing new.
We didn't either. It was sunny part of the day, and now it's raining lightly, so we got a little of both.
Oh yeah, you're getting probably headed towards you what we had earlier.
Oh.
Yeah. It's an interesting reading with the crew last night with reading that damn document. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. How, yeah, I know it's kind of a big I don't even know what kind of a emotion to attach to it, except I really just am shocked that Josh would go back and use so much of Judge Angie's decision from last year. I'm just blown away. But he did.
Yeah, I don't know how they can make some of the arguments and try to make some of the points they do with a straight face, or and still sleep at night and think I did a good job.
Right. Way to go, me. We did it.
Yeah. Working in the justice system.
Right. But I think a lot of good points were raised in the discussion we had. We tore it apart pretty good. Yeah.
Yep.
So, okay, I'm gonna pop this on screen. I'm gonna scroll it. You know what? Let me scroll to the top first. That way you guys don't get blinded by all this. Let's see here. Okay, we got Kelly and Glenn, and we got this Amanda Faulkner. Or no, I'm sorry, Amanda Kaiser. Yeah, she spoke some. Okay, there's two ladies in here on this one. So you can do the two ladies, which is Amanda and Terry. I don't know if I heard Terry speak, Terry Weber.
Yeah, Kay was Terry last time, and I remember.
Oh, that's right.
Had a couple.
And I'll be Bascom and Pollen.
Okay.
Alrighty, let me get scrolled over here. On page 83. Okay, 84. There we go. You have your own copy. You're just reading off mine, Cherie.
I could get my. I have one open. It's just. I'm not very talented, but if it's just you and I talking, I could probably handle it better on my own. It's just switching back and forth, but if I can leave it on
Well,
me.
you can just read off mine if you want. It's fine.
Okay.
I'll be scrolling as we go. So.
Yeah, good point.
Okay. Now this document's total is 198 pages, but I'm going to guess there's probably I'm going to guess 20 pages of index. I didn't count it, but a document this big that'll have a large index. That's typical. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I need to bring up. I didn't really browse. I mean, I did look at X a little bit earlier, Twitter. Saw a few interesting little tweets and so forth, but compared to yesterday, so far it looked like it had been relatively quiet. But again, for those that that have Twitter, I'm sure that you've been following that are listening in right now, and if you don't have it, a lot of people have avoided getting Twitter or X or whatever because they've heard it's so vile and vitriol and all that, and it can be depending on who you follow. It can get really bad. The good thing about Twitter, though, you can unfollow those people and you won't get that feed. You won't get the really terrible stuff.
Get that bitterness right out of you.
Yeah, right. Just get it out. Somebody starts, balling you. It takes 2 seconds to block someone. You can just block them, and they can't bother you. I mean, unless they create a new account, which they can do, but that's on them. But it's definitely made for some interesting conversations, and why certain things are going on right now. I don't really understand fully what Kratz is doing. I mean, it's fine for anyone to come back and have a conversation and talk, but it's gone much deeper than that. It's so far beyond all of that, because it started out with some quotes and so forth from his. Well, there was some other things before, but it really kind of got blown up when the Wisconsin Law Journal posted a few excerpts of Kratz's diary, and that's really kind of where things got kicked off. And now we're so far beyond all of that, that's not even funny.
I was thinking of like in Colburn's lawsuit, where the emails where he was saying, "Oh, we got to keep it alive" and stuff. So I wondered if he was trying to come back and stir things up to keep it, the case in people's attention.
Well, he did say that. He told Colburn and Brenda that, we want Making Murder 2 to keep it relevant, because that just gives them a bigger platform to build off of. And he's right.
Yeah.
Of course, the plan was to, best I can recall, the plan was to release Cam in 2019, and that date got moved to follow 2019, and then that got moved, and then it just kind of like, well, when's it going to get released?
Yeah, about the time I came into the community, it was supposed to be, coming anytime. So.
Yeah, they moved the date. Well, it seemed to me like it was 3. It could have been even 4 times that the date got changed.
Seems like it.
So,
several times.
It was several times. Anyway, sorry, I'm slugging coffee here. All right. We'll make a start here. Just thinking back last week to, Kusche, his is one of the more interesting depositions because this guy's no dumbass, and you can tell that, and you can tell he's got a. I mean, it's almost like the wheels are always turning with this guy, and he's trying to think of what to say next. What to say next? How should I answer this? We got somebody here. There's Kay. What up, Kay?
Hey, sorry, Daniel called right when I was about to log on.
Oh, that's okay. That's all right.
So happy to see you and hear you.
Yep. glad you didn't get blown away and all that kind of stuff.
Oh my God, that was crazy. All right.
Yes.
Didn't mean to interrupt.
Yep. No. You're fine. Actually, glad you're here. If you're able to read, then we can take this from a two-way. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, with that being said, here's what we'll do. If you guys are okay with it, if you're not, please tell me. You two can do the lawyer, Glenn. I think it's Glenn, whoever, it doesn't matter. Asking the questions, and one of you can be Kusche. Is that okay?
Sure. Yeah. Which do you want, Sheree?
She can be the lawyer since she is. Right?
Okay. All right. I'll do the answer then.
And then I'll be the lawyers and the reporter that bird in here.
Gotcha.
We're on page 83 of the Kusche deposition. I mean, if you're following on the screen, that's fine too. So.
Yeah, I'm on the screen.
Okay.
Tell me when.
Well, that makes it easier. Okay, let me get over to the document.
Okay.
Anyway, I don't want to ramble on about Kusche, but this guy, you can just tell the wheels are always turning. I mean, I can.
I'm impressed with his resume for sure.
Oh, absolutely. He did he graduated from Quantico at the FBI, whatever course they sent him to go through. So he's had some extensive. This is beyond all the other stuff that we read that he had already been through, and I'm sure he was continuing on with various certifications and so forth locally. So this guy's no doubt. This guy, I mean, to me, he's the smartest one in the whole group of MTSO echelon. So anyway, let's just start at the top of page 1. I think we'd actually made it down just a little ways. Let's just start at the top of page 1 and move on.
Did you serve subpoenas on the Stephen Avery witnesses?
Yes.
Did you talk with them when you served the subpoenas?
I don't believe so.
All right. You participated in the canvass?
Yes.
Did you perform any other functions in the course of the investigation than those that I just enumerated with you?
I don't believe so.
There are reports which I'll show you. More than one person has said that the sheriff placed you in charge of the investigation. Is that true?
No.
One person said you and Larry Conrad were placed in charge of the investigation. Is that true?
No.
Who was in charge of the investigation?
As far as I know, Sheriff Kusche and Don Bells were.
Okay. In relationship to the canvas, would you tell us what that canvas was?
I think it was going to houses on the streets just off the beach and asking people if they'd seen anything or heard anything on that particular time that was unusual or out of place, or if they saw anybody or any vehicles.
Who participated in the canvas in addition to you?
Who? I don't really recall at this time.
Who directed that the canvas be done?
Sheriff Kusche.
When was the canvas done?
I think the next day or the day thereafter.
Did you prepare any report in connection with what you did in the canvas?
I think I had my notes from the people I contacted and turned that in. What happened to it, I don't know.
Turned it into whom?
I don't recall.
What would you have done in the ordinary course in relationship to a canvas and notes that you had?
Probably turned it in to a secretary for typing. If it was done, I don't know, or turned it in to who's ever in charge.
When you met with Miss Doyle on both occasions, there were no notes of those kind that you reviewed, right?
That is correct.
Nor any report about your notes in that respect that you reviewed with her.
That is correct.
Did she say anything to you about whether or not there were any reports on the canvas?
She said there weren't any.
Did she say that was a question in the case about why there weren't any?
No, she asked me, just like you, if I knew anything about them.
Okay, did you participate at all in any search of the beach area?
No.
What's your recollection of your participation in the search of the house?
I was standing there watching.
Why?
Well, I wanted to be there, I guess.
Who sent you there?
I think I just went along.
Who else was present?
I don't recall without seeing the report.
Was Judy Dvorak there?
I don't recall.
Did you see her at the hospital the night before?
I think I saw her there.
Did you have any conversation with her?
I don't recall.
Okay. Did you participate in the reenactment of the assault on Miss Berenson as it was conducted by the sheriff on the beach 2 or 3 days after the actual assault?
No.
Have you ever had any conversation with Don Belts about his role in the investigation?
Yes.
How many times?
Couple times, 3 times.
Don Belts say anything to you about the sheriff taking over the investigation and he not conducting it in the way he ordinarily would have?
He didn't say it that way.
What did he say?
He said the sheriff took over the investigation.
Okay, did he say when the sheriff took over the investigation?
No.
Of course, you were at the hospital that night when the sheriff was there, right?
That's correct.
So you knew the sheriff was in charge at the hospital that night?
I know the sheriff was at the hospital. Whether he was in command of the entire investigation, I do not know.
Well, was anyone else at the hospital that was in command of the entire investigation on the evening of July 29th?
Sometimes the sheriff can be there. It doesn't mean he's in command, or he may take command initially and then it gets turned over to someone else.
Yeah.
So,
Well, what's your recollection of what happened that night?
that night,
Was he or wasn't he in command of the investigation as you recall it?
well, he was the highest ranking man there, yes.
And was he behaving like he was in charge of the investigation?
Holland and Weber object to form. I'll join.
He was
oh, whoops, sorry.
he was being sheriff. He was asking about things being done. If that means he was in command.
Were you in charge at the hospital that night?
No.
Was Kalanzik in charge?
He would be the investigator on the scene.
So you think he was in charge?
I don't know, because again, my scope was very limited, so I wasn't paying a lot of attention to else that was going on.
I'm not asking you for perfect knowledge. I'm asking you for your impression, whatever may have been its source, as to who was in charge of the investigation at the hospital.
The sheriff, as department head, was there. Therefore, he was in charge at that moment in time.
And at any time subsequent to that, in respect to the functions that you performed in the investigation, did it appear to you that anybody other than the sheriff was in charge of the investigation?
I knew he was taking an active part. Does that mean he was in charge? He was in charge. I know other people were more active in the investigation. What they were doing in it, you have to understand. The sheriff would be the only one who could give me orders. So to me, he was in charge. Whether he was in charge to every other person, I mean, there's a chain of command. So whether Don Bells was giving the orders to the rest of the detectives, I don't know.
Don Bells ever give you an order in respect to the investigation of the Stephen Avery case?
No.
Other than you, Kalanzik, and the sheriff, and Beck and Dvorak, was anybody else from the department present at the hospital that night?
I don't recall.
Okay, I'm going to ask you a whole sequence of questions about the events on the evening of July 29th, and I want to remind you that I don't have any special legal definition of knowledge here. What I'm asking you for is your best recollection from whatever source, whether it's hearsay, whether it's what you directly remember, whether it's something somebody told you. Okay? Do you understand that?
Correct.
All right. How were you first notified that something had happened that required you to, or that you were being requested to go to the hospital?
I was called by dispatch?
Do you remember who the dispatcher was?
No.
What were you told when you were called by dispatch?
I was told to get my sketch pad and go to the hospital.
Where were you at the time?
Home?
Can you approximate the time?
I'm thinking afternoon or early evening, somewhere in there.
Did the dispatcher tell you what it was about?
No.
Did you have any idea what you were wanted for with your sketchbook?
Well, I think she said there was a victim at the hospital and they wanted a sketch.
Did she say who they was?
I don't recall if she did.
Did she identify Beck at all?
I may have been told that he was the officer on the scene, but I'm not absolutely sure.
Did she identify the sheriff at all?
No.
All right. I'm going to stop for a moment on the events that evening and ask you when last, prior to that evening, had you been involved in a course concerning doing composite sketches?
I had just completed a course, what they call rapid visual perception. It was a, excuse me, a 1-semester, 40-hour course that dealt primarily with producing composite drawings.
Where had you taken that course?
It was a course given by Mount Scenario College at the Manitowoc County Sheriff's Department.
Was there any course concerning the doing of composite drawings that you had taken previously to the Mount Scenario course?
No.
Was there any later course that you took with respect to composite drawings?
Oh, yes.
Was the later course considered a more advanced course than the Mount Scenario course?
Oh, yes.
And when was the later course in relationship to the Stephen Avery matter?
It took maybe 7 or 8 additional. I took maybe 7 or 8 additional courses over the years.
And those were after the Stephen Avery, after you did this composite that's involved in Exhibit 154?
That's correct.
So as of the time that you were called to the hospital to bring your sketch pad, you had completed the one course at Mount Scenario that you've told us about.
That's correct.
And as I understand it, you tell me if I'm right about this, that course was one that was offered in such a way that it actually took place at the department.
That is correct.
And you were not the only person in that course.
That is correct.
Who else was in the course with you?
I don't remember everybody who was there. I know Bill Beck was there.
Was the sheriff there?
No.
If I told you that Beck had given us some testimony that he thought the sheriff took it, would that change your testimony at all?
No, I don't remember him being there.
Okay, all right. Anybody else you can remember who took the course?
No, because there were a lot of courses I took, and I don't remember who was in each.
Can you fix the period of time between when the course ended and when Miss Berenson was assaulted? Was it a matter of days or weeks?
Maybe a couple months. That would be just a guess. I'd have to see the course material.
Would it be fair to say that whoever contacted the dispatcher and told the dispatcher to have you get your sketch pad and come must have known that you had taken this course?
Yes.
Bascom, object to the form.
When you completed the course, did you announce, or was it announced in any way, that you were a person who, within this department, would thereafter be doing composite sketches?
No.
Did you know whether or not the course was something that was offered in order to give the department a skill that it had not previously had? That is to say, the skill to do composite sketches?
No.
No, I'm wrong, or no, you don't remember.
No, it was not offered for that purpose.
Okay, what purpose was it offered for?
At that time, a lot of officers were attempting to complete their bachelor's degree, and one of the courses needed would be an art credit, and the county board would only pay for those courses substantively related to police work.
New word?
No, but I guess not one I read often. Therefore, for our credit, they give us this rapid visual perception course.
And were you such a person, that is to say, were you then working on your degree at Mount Scenario and needing those credits?
That's correct.
All right. And I'm sorry, you may have already answered this. Do you remember what the time span was between when you finished the course and when the Stephen Avery?
Maybe 2 or 3 months. I'd have to look at the documents to tell you for sure.
At that point in time, had you done any composite drawings in any other case than the Stephen Avery case from the time you completed the course up to when you were called to the hospital?
No.
Mr. Pollen, object to the form.
All right. Where was your sketch pad?
In my house.
In addition to the sketch pad, what other materials did you need to do the composite?
Charcoal pencils, eraser. Basically, that's it.
All right. Were all of those at your house?
Sure.
Did you go straight from your house to the hospital?
Yes.
Did you stop on the way at the sheriff's department?
I don't believe so.
All right. Did you stop on the way at the jail?
No.
When you got to the hospital, who was the first person you met who was involved in this?
I seem to think it was Bill Beck.
All right. Do you remember what Bill Beck told you?
He told me that there was an assault and that a woman who was on the beach, that she was in the emergency room with the doctors now, and they'd like to have a composite sketch done when she comes out.
Did he say who was the they that wanted to have the composite sketch done?
No, I presumed it was he.
He, Bill Beck?
He, Bill Beck.
All right. Did he report on the identity of the woman who had been assaulted to you in that conversation?
Well, he may have. I don't recall.
All right. Do you remember him reporting on what he had been told by the nurse that Miss Berenson had described with respect to the person who assaulted her?
I don't recall that.
Did he, Bill Beck, make any effort to describe to you what he knew to be the description of the person who had assaulted Miss Berenson at that time, meaning when you arrived at the hospital?
I don't believe so.
Did he brief you about the case?
Yes.
You know, from having seen with Miss Doyle on both occasions that your Department of Justice investigatory statement reports that Bill Beck briefed you about the case.
Yes.
What's that phrase mean to you, being briefed about the case?
Told me what's happening?
All right. Did he tell you that there was any difficulty with his and Ms. Dvorak's desire to remain in the emergency room with Miss Berenson arising from the reactions of the doctors or nurses?
He may have. I'm not sure.
All right. At the time that you were speaking with Bill Beck, where were you located physically?
It was either the lobby or the hallway.
And where was that in relation to the emergency room?
Well, it was in the hallway. It would have been outside the emergency room.
All right. Was anyone else present?
I don't remember.
Do you remember seeing Tom Berenson?
I may have. I didn't know him.
All right. Do you recall whether you were introduced to him?
No.
Okay. Why do you say you may have seen him?
Well, he may have been there, and if I didn't recognize him, I have no recollection of it.
You don't remember talking with him at all?
No.
Do you remember Beck reporting to you that Dvorak was in the emergency room with Miss Berenson?
I believe he told me that.
Okay. Do you recall about what time it was that conversation with Beck occurred, roughly?
No, I don't.
Okay. Was there a period of time during which you remembered or you remained outside the emergency room?
Yes.
And Bill Beck continued to be present?
Yes and no. I mean, coming and going. I wasn't.
Coming? Who was coming and going?
Well, he may have been there. He may have been going on the phone, doing other things. It was a period of time that I was there just waiting.
All right. During that waiting period of time, was Sheriff Kusche there?
To my recollection, he came later than I did. He came in at what time he did. I don't know.
Can you estimate the period of time that you were outside the emergency room before you ever saw Miss Berenson?
No, I can't.
Are you able to say whether it was more than an hour?
I'm thinking it was, but I'm not sure.
Okay.
What damn. Unbelievable. I think and it may, and I'm not sure. He's really careful not to pin himself in, and
No, he's excellent at it.
we call that smarmy.
Fits. Okay.
You know, my recollection of that period it's not ironclad.
All right. During the period of time that you were waiting, do you recall whether or not the sheriff came?
Well, that's the period of time I thought he came.
Sometime in that period of time.
Sometime in that period.
How proximate to your arrival was his arrival?
That I saw him, guess would be maybe 15 minutes, but that's a guess.
You seem to be drawing a distinction between when you saw him and when he may have arrived. Were you doing that in your testimony just a moment ago?
Yes, he may have been there and I not see him.
Okay, where did he come from when you saw him?
I have no idea.
Did he come out of the emergency room?
No.
How do you know that?
Well, because I would have been right outside the emergency room.
So you weren't waiting in the front hall, you were waiting right outside the emergency room.
Well, I was waiting where I could see the door because I wanted to be ready.
All right, and that's where you first saw the sheriff?
I believe so.
Do you know where he came from?
No.
Other than the sheriff and Mr. Beck and yourself, and perhaps Mr. Berenson, was there anybody else outside the emergency room at that time that you recall?
I think Judy came out once, but I'm not sure.
Okay. Did you know Judy Dvorak?
Yes.
Okay, so you would recognize her on sight?
Yes.
And Beck already told you that she was in there.
Yes, I believe so.
When she came out, what did she do?
I don't recall.
Do you remember whether she spoke to the sheriff?
I don't recall.
Do you remember whether she reported on anything that Miss Berenson had said about who her assailant was or what happened to her?
I really can't say for sure. I mean,
Give me your best recollection, however imperfect it may be.
things were said. I think more like, she was hurt and that they were waiting for I think someone said that they were waiting for a specialist. It may have been Judy.
Not the specialist, but it may have been Judy who said that.
Yeah, it may have been Judy saying they were waiting for a specialist.
Who was she speaking to?
I don't know. I believe I was standing there. It may have been who was standing there.
So she's coming out and reporting what's going on in the emergency room to whoever of you was there.
Well, that's my recollection, yes.
And your recollection, as I understand it at this point, would be Beck, yourself, and the sheriff for sure are standing there when she comes out.
I can't say. I don't recall. I know these people were there at some time during the evening. When she came out and said this, I don't know who was standing there.
And do you know in time about how long that was after you arrived?
It would just be a guess if I made a guess.
Okay, what's your guess?
My
Object to the form. Calls for speculation.
My guess would be maybe a half hour, something of that nature.
Okay, did you have your notebook with you at the time?
I probably did.
In addition to your sketch pad and materials?
Yes, probably did.
Did you make any notes about these events
No.
that occurred at the hospital?
No.
Did you ever complete a report about it?
No.
Okay, how come?
Because I just did the sketch.
About how long did Miss Dvorak report on the goings on in the emergency room when she came out that you...
I think it was just coming out and stating they were waiting for a specialist and then went back in, to my recollection.
Do you recall whether she spoke to Mr. Beck at all about the identification of Miss Berenson's assailant on that occasion?
Can't recall.
You don't recall whether or not Beck said anything to you before you went into any room about the fact that Miss Berenson had given a description and the description was said to be Stephen Avery?
I heard from somebody that sounds like Steve Avery.
Okay.
Who it was, I've racked my mind to think of, and I can't remember who said it.
Well, let's talk about who the possibilities are.
Okay.
As far as I understand it from you, the possibilities at this point in time are Beck.
Yes.
Dvorak.
Yes.
Sheriff Kusche.
Yes.
Not yourself, because you're the listener, not the speaker. And was Kalanzik there by that time?
He may have been. I don't recall.
You're not sure about that?
I'm not sure.
All right. And you don't remember whether Tom Berenson was there?
I don't remember if Tom Berenson was there.
Are there any other specific people whom you could consider to be possibilities for who would have said that?
I can't say because I don't recall who exactly was there.
All right, but there's no one else specifically that you can think of other than the people we've named?
Not that I can specifically name, no. Can I get some more water?
Paul and the
Okay.
lawyer. No, Paul and the lawyer. No. Yeah, I'm kidding.
Must be he's not in a bad mood yet. Okay, let's go through them. Are you clear that it was not Kusche who said that sounds like Stephen Avery?
I don't think it was him.
All right, and are you clear that it was not Tom Bjornson who said that sounds like Stephen Avery?
If he had said it, see, I don't know him. Therefore, if I don't remember a civilian being there
Okay.
talking to us.
Okay, all right. So, and we know it wasn't you.
Yes.
So we're down to Beck, Kalansik, or Dvorak.
Or if someone else was there that I don't remember.
Okay, and the only person who had been in the emergency room with Miss Bjornson was Dvorak at that point in time.
I don't know that. I don't know whether Beck had been with her earlier and talked to her. I don't know when, if any description was given, whether it had been in there or prior to that.
Okay.
So I don't know.
So between...
Reporter, we're about to end the first videotape, change tape, blah, blah, blah.
Let me just ask one more question.
Certainly.
As between the three people that we've named, Beck, Kalansik, and Dvorak, you don't know who it was.
I have no idea. I have no recollection.
And as far as you're concerned, maybe it was even the sheriff?
Well, it could have been.
Okay.
They changed the tape, and they're back on line 18.
While you were waiting outside the emergency room and before you ever entered it or any other room, do you recall somebody coming from the jail with a stack of photographs and giving them to the sheriff?
No.
Do you have any recollection of the sheriff starting to enter the emergency room with the photographs from the jail and you're saying to him, don't do that until I go in and do the composite?
I remember saying that, but I don't know if it was to him.
Just a quick pause here at line 5. As people that have listened to all of these depositions or read them themselves, you know this is a real sticking point with Glenn and Kelly, because someone brought this pretty significant pile of photographs and gave them to the sheriff. And just everything that I believe and have read. Now, I understand Kusche saying he got there relatively early, but Beck, the sheriff, Dvorak, and there could have even been another one or two there prior to him arriving. And I think at this point in time, the sheriff, as we're reading right here, had this pile of photographs. Now I think Kusche's already said he didn't see anyone bring these photographs, so he clearly already had them. So this becomes a real sticking point. Did he have, what all photographs did he have? What was the criteria? Blah, blah, blah. So clearly some description had already been given by Penny Bernstein, and a call had been made, because they have to know what criteria to look for, sandy hair, maybe beard, whatever physical description that was given by the sheriff to whoever was at the jail to pull these mugshots, these jail photos. So this is a real sticking point. Anyway.
I wanted to say so badly when he was listing off the things he needed to do as composite tracing paper.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he got everything pretty much. That's not perfect, obviously. It's a tracing, but everything but the hair. He certainly got that wrong. Anyway, continue on line 5 whenever you're ready.
All right. Do you remember to whom else than him it might have been?
It could have been to any of the other individuals. All I remember is that someone saying, we have a mug shot. And I says, don't show her and don't show me. Oh my God.
Oh, please don't show me.
Oh
He
my
knows.
God.
He
Wants to keep
freaking
it
knows.
Oh, what a shithead.
for the appearance of it.
Don't
And
show me. Go ahead.
And that person who said, we have a mugshot, said, we have a mugshot.
Oh, that's my recollection.
And do you recall whether that mugshot that was identified as a mugshot was of Stephen Avery?
I never saw it. I can't tell you.
Oh, hell no. I didn't see that.
Did
He
anybody?
remembers that. That's the only thing he remembers.
Right.
Did anybody say anything about that?
I may have supposed it because they said it sounds like Stephen Avery.
Okay.
And then someone coming up said, we have a mugshot. Maybe in my mind, I supposed it was of Steve Avery.
You told us earlier that you were looking at the photographs when the photo array was done with Miss Berenson.
That's correct.
And you told us that the photograph that appears at the bottom of Exhibit 154 was the photograph of Stephen Avery that was in the array.
That is correct.
And you're telling us that now that the mugshot that's being referred to as a mugshot may well have been Stephen Avery. Is that right?
Colin, I'm going to object. That just calls for speculation on his part.
I'm guessing that it was because that evening, later, they came up and there was that mugshot was there. So I'm assuming they had it. I thought he never saw it ever.
I don't know. And it was based on that assumption that you said, don't show that mugshot?
Right.
Okay.
Or any mugshots. I didn't want any photographs showed to her.
And to whom did you say that?
Whoever made the comment about the mugshots.
Who was the jailer who brought the photos over?
I have no idea.
Do you know who was on duty at the jail that night?
No idea.
After you left the hospital that night, where did you go?
Might have gone back to my office.
And where was your office?
Well, in the sheriff's department.
Okay, who was in the building when you went back?
I have no recollection.
What time was it?
It was later in the evening.
Do you recall whether or not you had any contact with Ken Peterson at that time?
I don't recall it.
Had this decision then been made to arrest Stephen Avery?
But I don't know.
How long did you stay at your office?
I think I sealed the sketch and left.
Did you leave the sketch there?
Yes.
Do you have any recollection of whether or not Kalanzik arrived by the time you made the directive that no one should go into the emergency room with any of the mugshots?
I don't recall. Hey, does anyone know if Penny was ever asked about the whole drawing of the sketch thing? Was that like after the fact? I mean, like after his exoneration or at the time that was all going on?
Well, at the time when she was in the emergency room, and actually I think for a couple of days afterwards, because Alan had hit her so damn hard in the head, her vision and the eyes and so forth, he beat the hell out of her. Mm-hmm. She couldn't see. Her vision was blurry. She even said, she even told Dvorak, who I guess was writing this report, that she couldn't see to sign it. She couldn't read it because they told, read your, this is your statement, please read it, and we'll make any corrections if need be. And she told her she couldn't read it because her vision was so blurry. So even if she had seen it at the time, I'm not sure she could have seen it that well.
That's so bizarre because, I mean, and granted, I only see this stuff on television. I've never been involved in a real life situation where someone was doing a sketch, but don't they have you explain it or have you pick from us like which nose did it look like? And they show you a bunch of noses, or isn't that the way they typically do that?
As far as I know, yeah, they'll work off of. They'll have little models or whatever of angular face and or moon
Right.
face. Yeah, exactly.
And she wouldn't have been able to really see that to help him with the sketch, and he happened
No.
to just draw a perfect sketch of Stephen Avery from.
Yep. And he didn't say anything about having a kit with him or anything, right?
Mm-hmm. He didn't say that. He only had a charcoal pencil eraser in his sketchbook.
That's right. That's exactly right. So
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense, but we already knew that.
I don't remember ever hearing her speak about the composite, but
no, I can't remember either, Cherie. I was thinking, and I just don't remember that question being posed.
That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
If she follows any of this stuff, which she probably doesn't, because that would be really traumatic to, even though it wasn't Avery, but to flash back on being assaulted.
Well, you heard right when we first started reading what the sheriff made them do. He took them, the Bernstons, back to the beach and made them reenact what happened.
Oh, that's right.
And then they did it in court. I think twice.
Wow,
I can't even imagine anything so cruel.
I remember she was on. I don't know. I think I told everybody that she was on 60 Minutes a month or two ago.
Yeah.
And I don't think I ever did watch the whole segment about her, but to see what she said about it. But it was just about people who were, whose original person that was convicted was later exonerated, and how stressful and they felt guilty and all that.
Right.
I've got Paramount. I'll see if I can find that episode. Interesting.
Oh yeah, that'd be fun. That'd be interesting to view together.
It would. It would. Okay, you ladies can continue. Oh, go ahead.
Are we on line 3?
Line 3.
Did you see Sheriff Kusche move in and out of the emergency room during the period of time that Miss Bjornson was being treated?
No.
Do you deny that occurred?
No.
You just don't remember?
Well, I don't recall.
Do you recall whether or not Beck moved in and out of the emergency room during the time that you were waiting?
I don't recall that either.
Do you remember Beck leaving the hospital at any time?
No.
Do you remember when Sheriff Kusche arrived, whether he spoke with Beck?
I believe he did, but it was not within my hearing.
Okay. And do you recall whether after that conversation Beck left?
No.
Did you at any time enter the emergency room yourself?
I think I may have, but I asked for a room where I could sit with her and have a table.
Well, we'll take them one at a time. In respect to entering the emergency room, do you recall what caused you to do that?
I think if I did, it was when they told me she was ready, that I could talk to her.
Do you recall who it was that told you that she was ready?
No, I don't.
Do you recall whether it was somebody on the hospital staff, that is to say a physician or a nurse, or whether it was someone within the sheriff's department?
I really don't recall.
Do you remember whether Judy Dvorak came out and announced that now others than she could come into the emergency room?
I don't recall that.
All right. Do you remember at any time being in the emergency room with Judy Dvorak, Sheriff Kusche, and Miss Bjornson and you?
I really can't say. I think when I went in there, my attention was focused on her and talking to her. And then if there were others in the room, I really can't recall.
I'm sure you can't.
Jesus. You're gonna have a picture of that in your head.
When you say your attention was focused on her, what did you first say to her, and what do you recall her first saying to you?
Well, she was very badly beaten, and I asked her if she felt up to doing, like, sitting with me and doing a sketch.
So you told her you were there to do, you introduced yourself,
That's correct.
and you told her you were there to do a sketch
That's correct.
if she was up to it.
Yeah.
What'd she say?
She said yes.
All right. Did you tell her what was involved in doing a sketch?
Well, I did after we got to a room.
That's not what I'm asking. I'm asking while you were in the emergency room.
I don't know if I did or not.
All right. Did you tell her about how long, or did she ask about how long it was going to take to do the sketch?
Well, I says maybe a couple hours.
Did she say so? She did ask?
I told her. Whether it was in response to a question or not, I don't recall. I usually tell people, that it's going to take, 1 to 3 hours. I usually tell him now. Oh God, did he just catch himself? Because
Yep.
this is his first sketch, right? I usually tell him now.
Yeah.
Now. I think I told her it would take it would probably take a couple hours.
Okay. Do you have any recollection of whether or not her readiness to receive you for the purpose of doing this sketch was purely a medical matter, meaning the doctors were done with her and now you can talk to her? Or was it also a law enforcement matter, meaning the doctors are done with her and we've taken her statement?
I assume, well, I have no direct knowledge. I assumed it was because the medical situation was resolved to the point that I could talk to her.
Do you know whether or not a statement had been taken from her while she was in the emergency room prior to when you entered?
Do I know that? No.
Well, when I say no,
Yeah, I believe that a statement was, taken from her, or I think geez, that when Judy Dvorak was in there, I believe she took down notes to this is just a vague recollection. I really don't know, but this is my impression. Holy cow.
your
Man,
impression
he danced all the way around that. Oh my
Holy
God.
moly, that's crazy.
your impression is that Judy Dvorak had taken a statement from Penny Berenson before you entered the emergency room?
Or got some information in some manner or form, yeah.
And that information, did you understand, included a description of her assailant?
I presume that because somebody said that sounds like Steve Avery.
Okay, so that was something you knew as you were saying to Miss Berenson, we're going to do this. If you, with your permission, we're going to do this composite sketch and it's going to take a couple hours.
Correct.
Okay, do you remember at that point in time whether or not Mr. Beck was still present?
No, I don't remember.
Do you remember whether or not Kalanzik was still present?
No.
Do you recall whether the sheriff was in the emergency room at the time that conversation took place?
I don't know.
Well, what's your best recollection?
I really don't recall whether he was there or not.
All right, and how about Judy Dvorak? Was she still there?
I don't recall anybody else being there. They may have been there. I just don't recall them.
Is it your testimony that the matter of moving Miss Berenson to a room was a matter introduced by you at that point? Or were there other arrangements being made for her to go to one?
Now, I don't know whether there was or not, but I believe I asked, is there a place that we can do this? And whether it was because it was already arranged or it was a response to my request, I can't tell you.
All right, of whom did you ask that?
I believe the ER staff.
What were you told?
I was told there was a room and we were taken there, to my recollection, because we ended up in a room.
Were you told that there was going to be some delay while she was moved to a room?
No.
You went directly from the emergency room to another room in the hospital?
To my recollection, it was just off the emergency room. It wasn't very far.
So was it a patient room or was it some room that was just contiguous?
There was a bed in it, so it was in some manner or form. It was a patient room.
Rather than a holding area with respect to the emergency room?
I don't know their nomenclature.
I'm talking about the difference between a room for a patient to stay overnight on the one hand, a room in a hospital as we call it in common language, or whether it was simply a room that was available contiguous to the emergency room.
I recall a bed being in there, so I'm assuming it was a patient room.
Okay.
What it was beyond that, I don't know.
Do you remember whether or not at that point in time you had been introduced to Tom Beardson?
No, I wasn't.
Do you remember Tom Beardson being in this room that we're talking about?
No, I don't.
Do you recall whether or not the sheriff was in the room?
While I was doing the sketch?
Yes.
Nobody was in the room.
Just you and Miss Beardson.
Right, that's correct.
Nobody came and went into the room and out of the room while you were doing it?
I think it was an opening door or are you done yet type thing. I mean, people used to seeing on television that things get done in 15 minutes.
Yeah.
That's not reality.
Right. I think you testified or you made a statement to the Department of Justice agents that it took you between an hour and an hour and a half.
That would be my guess.
So less than 2 hours, but more than one?
Yes.
And I believe you said that you thought Miss Beardson did a very good job in terms of working with her on this composite.
Yes.
And this was the first one that you had done in an actual case since you completed the course?
That's correct.
And the basis for your saying that she did a good job was that there were adjustments that you had to make to the composite that's shown in Exhibit 154 based on things that she said to you.
Correct.
Including her statement, a statement that she made that the person appeared to be too old and that you had to adjust the sketch because of that.
Right. My drawing made him, because I put facial lines in and I had to remove them.
So let's get 154 again for the moment. So we now know that the person Ms. Beardson described to you was Gregory Allen, right?
No.
No?
No.
Well, we know that Gregory Allen was the assailant of Ms. Beardson because the DNA has shown that.
Well, you know that. I don't know that.
Unbelievable.
Well, let's talk about knowledge here.
Right?
I'm not talking about firsthand knowledge. I'm saying that the DNA has...
I have not read any reports. I do not know. People won't give me answers, so I can't say. I don't know.
Okay, so
I don't take what's in the paper as gospel truth, believe me.
Well, do you take DNA evidence that's been done by the state crime lab and become the basis for vacating?
That there was...
Let me finish. Vacating a judgment of conviction of Stephen Avery. Is that enough for you to know that Stephen Avery did not commit this assault?
No. Where did the evidence come from? That's all I'm asking.
You're saying you doubt the DNA examination because...
That it was a match? I believe there was a match.
Okay, so do you...
Has DNA evidence been fabricated before? Yes. I don't know.
So you think that happened here?
I don't know. That's why I'm asking.
Okay, so let's see if we understand then.
Okay.
Given this doubt in your mind...
Sure.
Are you asserting that this composite sketch you did, is a sketch of Stephen Avery?
The sketch I did was what I was directed to by the victim of the case.
Right. Who was describing her assailant.
Correct.
All right. And that assailant that she described, you depict in 154.
Correct.
And you say that comes very close to Stephen Avery.
Yes.
And not as close to Gregory Allen.
That is correct.
Even though Gregory Allen has been inculpated by DNA evidence.
Yes. I can't say what, that it looks like him. In my mind, it doesn't.
So you actually think that your sketch is more valid evidence that Stephen Avery committed this crime than the DNA evidence that's inculpated Gregory Allen?
My sketch is what the victim had me draw.
Right.
As what she saw.
Right.
My sketch looks more like Stephen Avery than it does Gregory Allen.
Right. That's right. And
that causes me a problem.
I'm sure it does.
And Miss Bjornson thinks that Gregory Allen is the person who assaulted her.
Okay. She's the victim. I'm not.
Right.
I'm saying that is what she had me draw.
Mm-hmm.
I think it looks more like him than like him.
Right.
But this is a picture of him a year later. He may have looked more like that a year earlier. I don't know.
Actually, did you make any effort to find out whether or not there was a mugshot of Gregory Allen before the assault of Miss Bjornson that might be available to you?
Bascom, object to the form of the question. It's vague as to time.
At any point in time?
I asked if there was a mugshot of him with a beard.
I'm going all the way back to 1985 and thereafter.
I had no knowledge of Gregory Allen before that. Oh, shoot. Really?
He was not in the array of photographs that was shown that evening too.
Okay.
What do you mean, okay? You looked at those photographs?
Sure. But I don't know who was in there. I couldn't name to you who was in there and who was not in there. I'm saying I've never seen him with a beard until this photograph, which was a year later. The hair is very different, but hair changes. He may have looked more like that at that time, indicating Exhibit 154.
I want to show you what's been marked as Exhibit 117 in this case. I ask you to take a moment and look at that.
Holland, do you still want this up, referring to Exhibit 154?
I do.
Holland, okay.
Have you seen that?
No.
I mean, right now, have you looked at that?
Oh, yes.
Do you know who that is from, looking at it and examining?
It says Gregory Allen.
Okay, and what's the date on that?
It's October 22nd, 1985.
Okay, would you put that up next to the picture of Stephen Avery?
Complies.
Okay, now is it your testimony that the drawing that you did in Exhibit 154 looks even more like Stephen Avery than Greg Allen in Exhibit 117?
Yes.
Okay, and that's dated October of 1985, right?
Yes.
And again, the victim was describing the person who actually assaulted her, right? And
Yes.
let's put this away. The DNA has indicated that's Gregory Allen, right?
That's correct.
And not Stephen Avery.
That's correct.
Okay. We can...
Holland, okay. They removed the exhibit.
So is it fair to say that when you were doing the composite sketch, you knew there was a suspect and somebody had mentioned that it was Stephen Avery?
That is correct.
Did you have any prior knowledge of Stephen Avery as a result of his contacts with the sheriff's department?
I had seen his name.
In what context had you seen his name?
In reviewing reports.
What reports had you reviewed?
All the reports in the department, or mostly all of the reports when I was working.
So you had reviewed the reports that were involved when Stephen Avery was arrested in January of 1985?
I probably did.
Did you see the photograph that is represented in Exhibit 154 when he was booked in January of 1985?
No.
In January of 1985, you were still the chief deputy in both title and function.
That's correct.
So as a matter of course, everybody who was arrested, particularly on a serious crime, that would be reported to you.
I reviewed the reports, yes.
And you would deal with the sheriff on that. You would inform the sheriff what had happened on particular arrests and the information and discuss that with him.
Only if something were extremely unique or what have you.
Okay, was that the case with respect to the Stephen Avery endangerment charge in January of 1985?
I don't recall it being so.
Do you remember who the investigating officer was on that?
No.
Do you recall discussing with Larry Conrad his interview of Stephen Avery after Avery was arrested in that case?
I don't recall that.
Do you remember whether or not you visited Stephen Avery at all when he was in jail?
No.
Are you denying that you ever saw Stephen Avery in any way before July 29th of 1985?
No.
You're not?
No.
You just don't remember?
I don't have any specific recollection of him.
Okay, at any time in the course of the evening between the period of time when you arrived at the hospital and when you left to go to your office, did you leave the hospital temporarily?
Not to my recollection.
After you completed the composite, what did you say to Miss Bjornson most immediately?
I says, "Is this the man who assaulted you?" She said yes.
All right, what did you then do?
I think I went to the door and said, "We're done."
You went to what?
The door of the room and said, "We're done."
To whom did you say that?
I think the sheriff was out there.
Anyone else?
I just said it generally. I don't remember anybody specifically.
Okay, do you recall ever in the course of the evening going to the jail yourself to get the photos?
Never.
You did not do that?
Did not do that.
Do you recall going to the jail to get a framing? I'm not quite sure what they call it in law enforcement, but
It's a shelf. It's a folder with the holes in it. Sure.
that allows pictures to be put in for an array.
Correct.
Do you recall going to get that?
No.
Was there anybody else from the department outside Miss Bjornson's room than the sheriff?
I don't recall.
How much of a time delay was there between when you reported that you had completed the sketch and when the photo array was done?
I think they came in and did it immediately.
Okay, who's they?
I recall the sheriff, and I seem to think other people were there, but I'm not really sure.
Okay, so what you remember for sure is that it's you and the sheriff and Miss Bjornson in the room to do the photo array.
Correct.
And he already had the photos.
Correct.
And your recollection is that he simply laid out the photos?
That's my recollection, yes.
And you're saying that you were looking at them?
Yes.
And as you looked at them, you thought the mugshot, Exhibit 74, in the lower left-hand corner looked like the person whose composite drawing you had done.
Yes.
And Miss Bjornson was looking at the photos at the same time?
Correct.
What did she say, as you recall?
I think she just pointed, saying, "That's him."
At this mugshot right here?
That's correct.
The one in the lower left-hand corner of exhibit number 74?
That's correct.
All right. You know that to be Stephen Avery at the time that you were looking at it?
No.
You did not?
No.
And do you know whether or not she knew it had to be Stephen Avery?
I wouldn't know.
Did you have any knowledge about how it came to be that Stephen Avery's mugshot was included amongst those that were shown to Miss Berenson by the sheriff?
Before I had gone in, somebody said they had mentioned it sounds like Stephen Avery, and then they said we have mugshots. I'm assuming that that's why his mugshot was included.
So, as far as you know, somebody called the jail to get the mugshots.
I presume so.
But it's an assumption on your part.
It's an assumption.
You were not involved in the photographs being obtained from the jail to do the photo array.
No.
And you have no recollection of you yourself asking for the inclusion of Stephen Avery's mugshot.
No.
Okay, would you agree with me that how Stephen Avery appeared on the evening of July 29th, 1985 and July 30th, 1985 is not represented by the top mugshot in exhibit number 74, not by the mugshot in the lower left-hand corner?
Pollen, object to the form of the question object on foundation from this witness.
You can answer.
Ms. Weber, I'll join.
Just by the look of the dates, it's different.
Right.
And the hair is different.
Right. So if we were to make an assumption like one that you suggested earlier, that Miss Berenson was actually describing Stephen Avery rather than Greg Allen, it would have to be the Stephen Avery depicted in the top mugshot, wouldn't it?
Baskin, object to the form.
You can answer.
Pollen, object to the form and foundation. Again, it's
how he looked that night.
Weber, I'll object.
Not how he looked 6 months before.
Weber, I'll join on both of those. Baskin, same objection.
Is that right?
I didn't know what he looked like when he assaulted her.
Right.
Later, when he was arrested, his hair looked like that.
Later, when he was arrested, meaning July of 1985, he looked like this.
Baskin, object to the form.
You can answer.
After the event at the beach, after everything had occurred and he was arrested, then he looked like that. Hair can be changed and altered. That's one of the things, I mean.
Okay.
Whether you comb your hair or you look messy, whether his hair looked like that earlier in the day, I don't know.
Okay, but the comparison here is between a photograph of Stephen Avery and...
He looks like the pictures.
Hold on, please.
Okay.
Between a booking photograph of Stephen Avery taken on the night that Miss Berenson was assaulted, the top picture.
Yeah.
And the booking photograph of Stephen Avery taken in January of 1985, the bottom photo.
Right.
Correct?
Correct.
And that, what your testimony is, that which more closely compares to the composite drawing you did was not the booking photo done on the evening of July 30th. It was the one that was done in January of 1985.
Of course
that
it
is
was.
Correct.
Okay.
Oh dear. Go ahead.
Okay. Do you think it would be fair to say that Miss Berenson had the drawn image of whoever it was that was in the composite photo that you created firmly in her mind at the time that she examined the photos in the photo array?
Baskin, object to the form of the question. Ms. Weber, I'm joining. Mr. Pollen, foundation of this witness to know that, but go ahead, sir.
You can answer.
Are you saying, if I can get this clear, that she had my drawing in her head when she looked at the photos?
As I understand your testimony, you complete the drawing.
Yes.
You show it to her.
She was watching the entire time with her eyes punched out and swollen closed.
Yep. Thank you for adding that.
Okay, and she says, that's it. That's the guy.
Yeah.
Immediately thereafter, you go to the door. The sheriff comes in. You do the photo array. Is that correct?
Yes.
The image that's in her mind as she's looking at the photo array is the image of the composite you just completed with her.
Bascom, object to the form.
Correct?
Bascom, object to the form of the question.
I can't say what's in her mind. Did she see this just before? Yes.
Okay.
I can't say what's in her mind.
So that's the impression that she carries into her examination of the photo array.
Bascom, object to the form of the question. Ms. Weber, object.
To your observation.
Bascom, object to the form of the question. Weber, I'll join. Well, they really don't want him to answer.
They really want to get off this subject. My drawing was the result of what image she had in her head. That's what that is. I'm just the pencil.
Right. That's right. I agree with that.
I'm just the pencil.
Okay.
And I can't say that. My view is that that's the image she had in her head.
Mm-hmm.
Whether she transposed that and put what was on a paper and thought that later, I can't say. What the hell?
You've examined with Amy Doyle?
Yes.
A statement made by Arland Avery that Leo Jadowski told him that you drew that composite based on a photo of Stephen Avery.
Yes.
And not on, well, that's not right, but based on a photo of Stephen Avery, specifically the January 1985 photo.
All right.
Okay.
Sure.
Did you tell Leo Jadowski that?
No.
Did you tell Arland Avery that?
No.
How are you able to account for what you've already described to us as being an accurate depiction of Stephen Avery's January 1985 photo, rather than a more accurate depiction of Gregory Allen? How do you account for that remarkable resemblance, given the fact that Stephen Avery did not assault Miss Spearenson?
Bascom, object to the form of the question.
I account for it as I drew what the victim told me to draw.
Would you agree with me that it's pretty remarkably coincidental that that would depict Stephen Avery's January 30th, 1985 mug photo, which was available to you that evening?
Bascom and Pollen, object to form. Ms. Weber, I'll join.
One. I'm
the
sorry.
Photo wasn't available to me.
No.
No.
It wasn't in the array?
After I drew the sketch, I saw it.
Okay, so it was available to you?
No.
It was around that evening. It had been brought over from the jail to the hospital, right?
I don't know when it arrived.
You're just saying, you're telling us under oath you didn't look at it.
I'm telling you I didn't see it, and I didn't know if it was there before I started the sketch either. I don't know when it arrived. Didn't he say that he told him not to show it to her and not to show it to him?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, he did say that. That's what I'm saying. He's driving the point. He clearly traced the January 1985 photo of Avery. That's so obvious. And now they're caught in this web of how the hell can we get out of it except deny everything? And that's all he can do. He has to.
Well, it works out, you know.
Well, yeah, it did, but no real investigation was done of the case and what really transpired. And of course, that's what they're trying to get down to is what they did in July of '85, August. But there's no repercussions at all, no consequences. But Avery ends up arrested again. He ends up getting $400,000, but that's a pittance to what he should have got. Plus, he gets charged in the Halbach case, which doesn't shock me. I always felt for sure something was going to. I just had that feeling something was going to happen, whether that's a right statement to say or not, to interrupt these depositions. They sure as hell didn't want Kusche on the stand or Vogel. There's just no way. I think they would have went to even more extreme measures had
They were just
this.
so lucky that happened.
Oh, absolutely.
Being sarcastic.
Well, yes and no. I just think something was going to happen. Yeah, they were. You're right.
I don't know whether it was luck or not. I guess is what I'm saying. I think there's something fishy there.
It just seemed like a genuine Manitowoc miracle that that we've had, that there are several incidents that boom just happened.
Yeah, that's what it was. I forgot about that phrase.
Right in the nick of time. I don't know when that phrase got brought up. It's been around a long time. I'm guessing that goes back to 2017, 2018. I don't remember. There are a number of them though. That things happen just in the nick of time to make it all right.
I remember in discussing a murder is where I heard it a lot in the recent, Jeff, Big Jeff, like said that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He and I just have discussed the Manitowoc miracles at length, and Jeff Jones and Doc and all. It's a phrase that has true meaning behind it.
Yeah.
Anyway. All right. While we're paused here, let's. I'm just going to take a quick peek here because I can't. I've tried to flip back and forth, but it's really difficult. I'm just going to check the chat here right quick.
Hey, I'm going to run and get a drink while you're doing that.
Sure.
I'll be right back.
Sure. I see we have several chatters. I see Scooby and Super Mud Catnip, something to talk about. James Crane. Who else we got here? Golf Inspired. That's a new name for me. Welcome. Nan's Live. Hey, there's Jeff Jones. Woohoo. Becca. I think Becca. Yeah, there's Becca. Pete Moss. Cher. Donna Wolfwich. I've probably missed some people here. Run with Scissors. I haven't seen that name in a minute. But it's interesting. He's really driving the point now, and he has been for the last several pages. But just as a more current thing, and Doc talked about it last night, this thing with the DNA. He's questioning where this DNA came from, and I'm just bewildered at the point of thinking to myself, how can you not know how a rape kit works? They do the combings of the private areas. They do other things too, but all that gets taken as evidence and sealed, right? Well, on Twitter here recently, Kratz has questioned that. Like someone had access to Gregory Allen's pubic hair and planted it in that rape kit of Penny Bernstein, and that's how the hairs were found. And I'm thinking to myself, well, number one, who would have access to Gregory Allen's private stuff? Right. Number two, even though this kit was in the county clerk's office in that big box, that was still locked up. Now I know that they gave access to various people to pilfer through because they kept getting requests for it. So they just had everything in a big box. Shame on them. But these envelopes with evidence were sealed in sealed envelopes. So are they trying to say that when it got to the crime lab that they wouldn't have noticed that an envelope had been unsealed and resealed with tape or something. It had to have been tape. If you rip it or whatever. So I don't know. It's just kind of a little bit shocking to me. And number two, why would someone do that? What would be the reason to implicate Gregory Allen in 2002? Because she had the kit for about a year. I think she got it sometime later on in 2002 or very early 2003. Because I know it took about a year for the results to get brought back, and I think she actually ran them twice. So
somebody who was a fan of Stephen Avery and had a stash of Gregory Allen's hair, I guess.
Right, exactly.
Smart, but...
Well, not really, because that's what Kratz is implying. And I just there's so many questions surrounding that, but the big one is, how would someone have access to Gregory Allen's private hair, roots and all? I don't know how that would work out, or who could do it.
For just such an occasion,
I guess, and then number two, get it inside that envelope with the kit from 1985, and somehow reseal that envelope, and without the crime lab, somebody, Sherry Culhane at the crime lab saying, "Hey, this envelope been opened. It's been resealed." That's a big problem for me. I don't know how somebody would do that.
The police or the sheriff's department certainly didn't have motive to do something like that. Whereas they would the other way around. They'd be right there, sign me up.
In your opinion?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. It's I don't know where else this could have came from Kratz, because it spun off into a whole different conversation that was going on Twitter, and basically he said kind of the same thing that Gene Kusche has said, that we just read back there on page 120-ish, that whole time frame. It's just mind-boggling. And we've seen the clip on one of the clips that we have of Kusche saying this. I don't know where it came from. Like, he doesn't know how a kit is collected. And I can't believe that, being the chief of detectives, he wouldn't have that knowledge, that information. So, anyway. Hey, there's TJ.
Oh, sorry.
No, I was just going to say hello to TJ and Mr. President.
I was thinking, it reminds me of Peterson. I remember him saying, "I would have doubt," when he was asked about it.
Oh, yeah.
In the court, I believe it was.
Yep. I think that was a preliminary that he said that. He absolutely did. Anyway, all right, let's continue. If you ladies are ready, we can continue on. We're making really good progress.
Yep, let's go.
Is it 8?
Yep.
But you knew Stephen Avery was the person who had been identified as the suspect.
I heard the name.
And you knew that the photos had been called for from the jail.
No, I don't.
Well, didn't you just go to the door and the sheriff come right in with the photos?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, how they came there, I do not know. I don't know a call was made.
Okay.
I'm assuming one was made. I do not know that.
Do you have any reason to understand why it would be that Jadowski would tell Arland Avery that you drew the photo? You drew the composite based on the photo.
You'd have...
Bascom, object to the form. Weber, join.
You'd have to ask Leo.
That's all you'd have to say about that?
I have no idea where he came up with it.
Have you talked to Leo Jadowski about this case at all?
No.
So unlike the other people that you've told us about, the other detectives with whom you've had these conversations, you've not had any conversation with Leo Jadowski?
That's correct.
At any time, did you have conversation with Jim Gospodarek about the case?
I don't think anything really specific when it was going on, other than the fact that he had been on the beach with a four-wheeler.
You don't have any recollection of any further conversations with him?
No,
Do you remember Gospodarek talking with you at all about the fact that he thought that the wrong person had been convicted?
no.
About how long did it take for the photo array to be done?
I have no idea.
Well, you were right there, weren't you?
Oh, you mean to be laid out and identified?
Yeah.
Oh, as soon as it was laid out, it was she pointed at it and said, "That's him."
And after she made that identification, what did you do?
I think I walked out of the hall, into the hall, and others wanted to see the sketch.
What others?
The other officers that were there,
Who were they?
Bill Beck,
Beck was still there, huh?
I presume it was.
Well, you presume. I'm asking you, was he there?
I don't recall who was there. I know other people wanted to see it.
Were you carrying the sketch with you?
Yes,
Did you show it to them?
yes.
How many people did you show it to?
I don't remember whoever was there.
Okay.
They wanted to see it.
Was there a discussion about it being Stephen Avery?
Yeah, it looked just like him.
Okay. And was Kalanzik there?
I don't know if he was there or not.
Was Peterson there?
I don't remember.
Was Leroy Bilkey there?
Don't remember that.
Is there anybody you remember who was there other than Beck and the sheriff?
I'm not even sure Beck was there. I just knew that there were other officers there. I don't remember specifically who was there.
Did any of the other officers say, "Oh, that looks like Stephen Avery"?
Yeah, I'm sure
They did?
they did. I remember the comment being made, "Boy, that looks like him."
Who made the comment?
I don't recall.
Did you tell that to the Department of Justice agents when they questioned you about this case?
I may have.
Okay. Do you remember how many other officers there were there?
I don't recall.
Where did you go from there? Anything further happen at the hospital?
I don't remember anything further happening.
You went from there to the sheriff's department?
That is
Hannah
correct.
Jackson, FaceTime video.
You sealed the drawing?
Correct.
Where did you put it?
It was in my office.
Okay. Did you do a report on anything that happened that evening?
I did not.
Why not?
I just did a sketch.
Well, you did a lot more than a sketch. You talked to a lot of people. You had conversations about the case. You knew about the identification of Stephen Avery.
When you have conversations about something, you don't necessarily make a report about it. I may talk amongst other officers about things. I don't make a report about it.
So,
And my function that night was to make a sketch. The sketch was my report.
so you didn't do any report about the process of making the sketch
No,
and how that occurred?
no.
Okay. Did you consider that your composite was an investigatory tool?
Yes.
Okay. At any time since you did this composite sketch in this case, have you done any other composite sketch that has been used in a trial?
No.
Have you done any other composite sketch that has been used in an investigation?
Yes.
How many such sketches have you done?
I don't know. Maybe around 50 over the last 20 years.
Okay. And these were used in investigations in the Manitowoc Sheriff's Department?
Manitowoc County, Manitowoc City, Kiel.
Are you done?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay, so when a sketch is done for an investigatory purpose, is it like the process that you've described you engaged in that evening?
No.
What is the process for this kind of sketch you're telling us now?
Later, I used a form that records the statement that the individual makes as to the physical attributes. If I use a feature catalog, an FBI feature catalog, if that's necessary.
Reporter, which catalog?
It's an FBI feature catalog.
Thank you.
That's, he points to the composite sketch. That was made with charcoal. I use pencil now. It's easier to work with, easier to erase. I don't give up the original now. I get a color photo of it, which reproduces it. Well, and I keep the original in my files, and the form that I use to interview becomes part of the case file.
Okay, so those are all practices that have developed since the trial of the case in the Penny Berenson sexual assault?
They are practices as a result of further training.
Okay. We're just going to go through some reports here. It's not going to take all that long, and then we'll be done. I'm going to show you Exhibit 15, pages 5514 through 5516, which is the Department of Justice interview of Al Kalanzik and...
Pollen, that's the 3-page exhibit?
Yeah.
Thank you.
But I'm going to direct the witness. At the bottom of the first page, Mr. Kusche, there is a sentence that begins, while Kalanzik was still standing there, a jailer came to the hospital and handed the sheriff a stack of pictures. Kalanzik stated that Sheriff Kusche...
Oops, sorry.
put these pictures in his pocket.
You're saying the first page?
Yeah, it runs over from the bottom of the first page.
Oh, okay.
I'll start again because we want the record to be clear. While Kalanzik was still standing there, a jailer came to the hospital and handed the sheriff a stack of pictures. Kalanzik stated that Sheriff Kusche put these pictures in his pocket. Kalanzik asked the sheriff if Kalanzik should set up a photo ID for the victim to review, and the sheriff responded that he would handle it. Do you see that?
Yep.
Okay, now the next paragraph says, while Kalanzik was still at the hospital, Gene Kusche from the Manitowoc County Sheriff's Department came to the hospital. Kusche was going to work with the victim to draw a composite picture. Kalanzik heard Kusche state that no one should show the victim any picture.
Uh-oh.
I think we lost you, Cherie. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Cherie, you might need to log out and come back in.
Yeah, her mic's not muted, so we've lost connection. I'll finish. I'll finish it until she comes back.
Okay, sounds good.
I'll start up here on line 11. Kalanzik heard Kusche state that no one should show the victim any pictures of the potential suspects until the composite picture is completed. Kalanzik then observed Kusche and Sheriff Kusche go into the victim's hospital room to do the drawing. You see that?
Yes.
Okay. In your recollection of events, is that sequence of events accurate?
I don't remember Kalanzik being there when I got there. I don't remember seeing any jailer with a pile of photographs. And if the sheriff walked in with me to the ER, he could have. I just was not paying attention to him.
Well, I'm particularly interested, given your testimony, in the final sentence of this second paragraph where Kalanzik says you and Kusche went into the victim's hospital room to do the drawing. Do you believe that to be inaccurate in view of your testimony?
Was he with me when I did the drawing? Is that what you're saying?
Cherie's back.
Line 18, Cherie.
Okay. The statement says, this is Kalanzik speaking to the agents,
Okay.
telling them that he observed you and the sheriff go into the victim's hospital room to do the drawing.
Why he said that? Why he said that, I don't know. The sheriff was not in there with me when I did the drawing.
Okay, so you believe that to be an inaccurate statement?
Well, he may have gone in with me to the room, but when I did the drawing, I had nobody in there but she and I.
Well, what's your recollection? I mean, I thought you testified.
I don't recall him coming into the room.
Are you saying that you don't recall it one way or the other? Or are you saying that
I don't recall the sheriff coming into the room with me.
Are you denying it?
He wasn't in there when I did the drawing.
Did he go into the room with you?
I don't recall that.
Well, when you say you don't recall it, it means either you don't recall one way or the other that he went in with you, or that you recall it and he did not. I'm asking you which it is.
Okay. I do not recall him going into the room with me. I do remember him not being in the room when I did the sketch.
So if he went into the room with you, he had to exit the room before you did the sketch.
Yes.
Okay, are you saying that based on what Kalanzik observed, which is to say the sheriff went into the room with you, that Kalanzik is mistaken?
No, I'm saying I do not recall him coming into the room with me.
Okay.
He may have come in, but then he would have had to leave because he wasn't in there when I did the sketch.
Yeah, and if he went in the room with you, he was carrying the photographs with him, wasn't he?
Bascom object to the form. Weber,
Okay.
I'll join. Bascom calls for speculation.
I do not know.
Well, that's what Kalanzik says.
That's what Kalanzik says.
Do you disagree with Kalanzik?
I do not know.
Okay.
Handing Kusche hands a document to Kelly.
Kelly, yeah.
Hold on to that for one more second, okay? We're done with that one. I'm going to show you Exhibit 15, pages 5559 to 5561, which is the interview of Arland Avery. On the second page of this Department of Justice interview, if you go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to the 7th full paragraph, I'm going to read this statement into the record. You've already testified about it to some extent, but I want to just secure your answer on the record. Arland Avery stated that although he was not investigating the case, he heard information from Leo Jadowski. Jadowski told Arland Avery that Stephen Avery did not commit the crime he was charged with, and that Jadowski knew this from Godspadarik. Jadowski stated that Godspadarik wanted to continue to investigate the case, and that the sheriff, Tom Kusurik, said no, and that the case was closed. My question to you is, either from Godspadarik or from Jadowski, did you ever receive this information?
No.
If you'd go down 2 more paragraphs to the final sentence in the paragraph, says Arland Avery stated that he was told by Jadowski that Jean Kusche drew the composite drawing by looking at the photograph of Avery. Do you see that?
Where are we again now?
Go down 2 more paragraphs to it's about a 6-line paragraph.
Okay.
That begins, Arland Avery stated.
All right.
The final sentence of that paragraph says, quote, Arland Avery stated that he was told by Jadowski that Jean Kusche drew the composite drawing by looking at a photograph of Avery. Do you see that?
Yep.
Did you ever tell Jadowski that you looked at a photograph of Avery to draw the composite?
Nope.
Do you deny telling that to Jadowski?
Yes.
Oh, hell yeah, he denies it.
Do you know any reason to believe why Jadowski would make that statement?
I have no idea.
Okay, if you go to the final sentence in this statement, Arlen Avery stated that it was the consensus of the detectives and officers working for the sheriff's department that Stephen Avery did not commit the crimes for which he was charged. However, everyone was told not to investigate further by the sheriff, Tom Kusche. Do you see that statement?
Yep.
In the conversations that you've had with the detectives and officers in the department who worked on this case, was there such a discussion?
No.
Okay. Have you seen the statement that was made by Tom Kusche to the investigators before today?
No.
Amy Doyle show it to you?
No.
Okay, I'm going to show it to you now. This is Exhibit 15, pages 5569 to 5573. It's a long statement, but there are only particular parts of it that I want to ask you about. If you would go to the second page, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 full paragraphs down. It starts with Kusche stated. I'm going to read it into the record while you're reading it. Kusche stated that he could not remember if he was in the room with Kusche when he drew the composite drawing. When the composite drawing was completed, Kusche could remember Kusche asking Bjornson if the drawing looked like her assailant. Now, let's stop there. When you showed her that drawing and asked her if it looked like her assailant, was the sheriff in the room?
I don't Not when I first asked, no.
You asked more than once?
I probably did.
Okay.
I probably did it for having witnesses saying,
Bjornson responded that it did. It was at this point that Kusche could remember someone saying that the drawing looked like Avery. Did the sheriff say that to you when?
no.
No. Kusche believed that this comment was made away from the victim. I believe your testimony is that only you and the sheriff and the victim were in the room.
Yes.
So was this comment made before the sheriff to you away from the victim? That looks like Stephen Avery.
I don't remember him saying that.
Okay.
I remember it being made, but my recollection is that it was made in the hallway
Earlier?
after.
Well, your earlier testimony is that the statement was made much earlier because that's
Yep.
how the photos were obtained.
No. When you're asking about the drawing,
Mm-hmm.
someone says the drawing looked like Avery. The drawing had to be done.
So you're saying that took place in the hallway outside
That's my recollection, yes.
rather than the sheriff saying that inside the room?
That is correct.
Okay, now go down to the next paragraph. It says, following the composite drawing, a photo lineup was created. Kusche said that several photographs from the jail were placed in a paper cutout so that the booking numbers were not visible. Your recollection is different than that, right?
That's right.
Okay, and in your recollection, the booking photo numbers would have been visible.
Yes, they would have been.
Okay, and then he goes on to say that he believed that Bjornson was shown one or two sheets of photographs. Your recollection is different than that?
Yes.
All right. Kusche stated that he worked with Kusche in showing the victim the photo lineup. Is that true?
I was in the room.
But he's saying he worked with you.
I don't know what he means by that.
Did he review the photographs with you before he showed them to Miss Bjornson?
No.
Did he discuss them with you?
No.
Did he tell you anything about Stephen Avery?
No.
He just came in and laid them out in your recollection?
My recollection, yes.
Okay. Do you remember the sheriff saying anything to you about discussing with Judy Dvorak the description that had been given by Miss Bjornson of her assailant?
No, I don't remember that.
Okay. I'm going to give you the statement of Dennis Vogel. First of all, before today, have you seen Vogel's statement?
No.
Did you discuss Vogel at all with Amy Doyle 2 days ago?
Yes.
What was the discussion between you and Amy Doyle about Vogel?
I think sometime during the trial or shortly thereafter, I had made a comment to Dennis that I didn't think there was enough to convict Steve Avery, and his response to me was, "Well, you haven't seen all the evidence or the trial." And you're right, I haven't.
What caused you to make that statement to him, especially in view of what you have told us about how you feel about the composite?
Eyewitnesses are not always the best evidence. I'm a physical evidence kind of officer, and I like to see good, solid physical evidence, and I didn't see that in this case.
Okay, if you take the Vogel statement, the last full paragraph, and giving the answers to the agents, and he says, Vogel was contacted prior to a photo lineup being shown to Bjornson. Vogel stated that he could remember discussing with officers that they needed to make sure the photographs were a fair representation of who Bjornson was describing. Vogel thought maybe he would have had this conversation with either Tom Kucerek or Jean Kusche. Vogel said it was possible that he saw the photographs before they were shown to Bjornson, but he was not sure. Here's the question. Did you talk to Vogel the night that you were at the hospital?
No.
Did you call him on the phone that night?
No.
Do you know whether or not Kucerek did?
No.
Did Kucerek say anything to you about conversations he had with Vogel that night about the photo array?
No.
Would you agree with me that based on this statement, if this statement is accurate, then it must have been Kucerek who talked to Vogel?
I will.
Bascom, object to the form. Weber, I'll join.
You may answer.
I'd assume since it's not me.
The answer is yes.
Same objection.
Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. While you were at the hospital, did any person mention Vogel's name?
I can't recall.
Do you remember whether or not in briefing Beck said anything to you about Vogel having been contacted?
I seem to have a fuzzy memory of someone saying the DA has been called, but who it was and in what context and when, I can't remember.
Did you see the sheriff making a number of calls that evening while you were at the hospital?
I saw him on the phone. Who he was calling, I don't know.
We've had some testimony in this case about the limited availability of mobile communication at that time as compared to today. And you correct me if I'm wrong about this, my recollection is that only the sheriff, yourself, and one other person had mobile communication devices available to you at the time. Does that sound?
Portable radios?
Well, some kind of mobile communication device, whatever the technology was then.
Well, we all had portable radios.
So you had a portable radio at the time?
I don't know if I had it with me. I usually left them at the office.
Are the portable radio networks for police-to-police communication?
Sure.
At that time,
Sure.
Yeah, but they're not a means by which you can communicate with, say, a layperson at home.
No.
So your testimony is you saw Kucerek not on a portable device, but on the telephone talking with...
I believe I recall him on the phone, yes.
Okay, do you remember whether or not it was Kucerek who mentioned to you that he had been in touch with the DA?
No, I don't remember that.
Okay, other than Beck or Kucerek, could it have been anybody else who made the statement about having been in touch with the DA?
I seem to think it was Beck, who I said I'm not sure was really even there. But that's a long time ago, and I'm not really sure.
You have knowledge about the fact that there was a lineup that occurred after this photo array?
I know there was one done. Other than that, I don't have any knowledge.
Okay. Do you know whether or not Stephen Avery was in the lineup?
I was told he was.
Okay, do you have any knowledge about the fact that only Stephen Avery was the one person who was in both the photo array and the lineup?
I heard that was the case.
But other than hearing it, you do not have knowledge of your own?
Other than here, I read it.
Okay, all right. At any time, did you have any conversations with Brenda Peterson about this case?
No.
With Beverly Badker?
No.
Jill Martens?
No. Do you recall whether there was any discussion at the hospital? And is that you? I think that's
Yeah, it
you.
sounds like it. Do you
Yeah.
recall? Do you recall whether there was any discussion at the hospital involving you and Kusurik and the matter of Miranda warnings and how to handle Stephen Avery when he was arrested?
No.
Were you involved at all in the discussions to execute the arrest of Stephen Avery that evening?
No.
Do you recall about what time you got home?
I can't remember for sure. I'm thinking it was later, but I can't tell you for sure.
Did you go home directly from your office at the sheriff's building?
I believe so.
Do you remember talking with any other person at the sheriff's building while you were there than the people you've already told us about?
I may have, but I wasn't there that long.
Did you have any conversation with Ken Peterson about what had developed at the hospital when and about the potential arrest of Stephen Avery?
I have. Again, it may be a conversation in passing or something of that nature. What's going on, but I don't have any recollection of it.
Do you recall whether there was any question about whether or not you might accompany those who were going to arrest Stephen?
I don't remember it coming up.
Okay, do you remember any conversation with anybody at the sheriff's department about Arland Avery going with whoever was going to make the arrest of Stephen?
Not that night.
That evening?
Not that evening, no.
Okay, is there anything else you remember about any conversations you had with anybody at the sheriff's building?
That night?
After you left, right after you left the hospital that night?
I don't have any recollection of anything. I think I was just there, took care of the picture, and went home.
Let me give this to you. This is Judy Dvorak's statement, pages 5602 to 5604. On the second page, second full paragraph, Dvorak said that when she took the statement from Bjornson, there was another detective in the room with her. Dvorak was unable to recall who this other person was. Dvorak said the interview with Bjornson was a joint interview between herself and the other detective. Dvorak believed that the other detective may have completed the report, but she was not sure. Was that you?
No.
All right. Do you have any knowledge about who that other detective was based on what you saw at the hospital that night?
I didn't see another detective there, and I wasn't a detective at the time.
Right.
The only detective I recall seeing was Kalanzik.
Right. And did you ever see Kalanzik go into the emergency room where Dvorak was?
No.
Did you ever see the sheriff go in?
I don't really have a memory of that occurring.
Okay, if you'd go down to the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th paragraph down, S.A. Strauss asked Dvorak when Avery became a suspect for this assault. Dvorak responded that after she and the detectives had gone through the initial interview with Bjornson and Bjornson provided a physical description of her assailant, Avery became a suspect. Dvorak thought Avery became a suspect based on Bjornson's physical description. Is that consistent with your recollection of how Avery became a suspect?
I heard someone say that sounds like Stephen Avery.
Okay.
So I'm assuming that it was based upon a description she gave.
Okay, if you go down 2 more paragraphs, Dvorak was then asked, the second sentence says, Dvorak said she has seen the drawing completed by Kusche, but she could not remember if she saw the drawing the night of the assault or the following day. Do you see that statement?
Yes.
And then the next paragraph says, Dvorak said that when she saw the composite drawing prepared by Kusche, she thought the assailant looked like Avery. You see that?
Yes.
Do you remember whether she was one of the people outside Miss Beerenson's room that evening who saw the composite and made a comment about it?
I'm not absolutely sure, but I seem to think she was, but I can't say for absolutely sure.
Okay, here's your statement, which is pages 5574 to 5576. If you go down to the third full paragraph on the first page, there's a paragraph about you being briefed by Beck. Do you see that?
Third full paragraph?
Yeah, on the first page.
Okay. Met with William Beck.
Okay, and then it goes on and it says, at the hospital, Berenson provided a verbal description of her attacker. After giving the verbal description, Kusche stated that he could remember someone saying, sounds like Avery, and you've already testified to that, right?
Yes.
And then it says, Kusche believed that Sheriff Tom Kasurik was not there at the time. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
I thought he was there later.
So, in your recollection, at that point in time, the only people you can recall who were there were you, Beck, and Dvorak.
That's all I can remember specifically.
Okay, so it was either Beck or Dvorak who made the statement, that sounds like Stephen Avery.
That's the only people I can specifically remember. There may have been others there.
Okay.
I cannot attribute the statement to anyone in particular.
Then the statement says, around the same time, there was someone on the telephone calling for photographs to get a photo lineup together. You see that?
Yep.
So that would be either, as far as you recall, Dvorak, Beck, or yourself.
I don't remember making that statement in this report.
Okay, so let's make sure we get this. Your testimony is that when you spoke to the agents for the Department of Justice on the 24th of September, you do not recall saying to them, around that same time, there was someone on the telephone calling for photographs to get a photo lineup together.
I don't recall that statement because I don't recall someone being on the phone calling for photographs.
So do you think you may have made the statement and you're just not remembering it?
No, I think I may have made some statement that may have been misplaced in the thing because I don't remember anybody giving a phone call for the photographs.
So you think that
I think someone may have called for them, but I don't remember that I was aware of someone making a phone call.
Well, did you discuss someone calling for them with the agents?
No, I don't.
When they interviewed you?
I don't recall that.
Okay.
For some reason,
Are you denying it? Are you saying no? I didn't talk with them. Are you saying no? I didn't talk with them about that?
I may have said something about photographs being called for from the sheriff's department, but I'm not saying that I made the statement. Maybe there was someone calling for photographs, but here it sounds so definitively like I know someone was calling for photographs. That I would not have said. I may have said I know photographs were called for because they arrived, but I didn't make this statement like that.
Okay, let's go over the second page. I believe you said earlier that there was a statement that you recalled when you reviewed let me strike that. You testified earlier today that when you and Amy reviewed this, Amy Doyle reviewed this statement. You remember that there was one thing in this statement that was inaccurate. Do you remember that testimony?
Yes,
Is that the thing that you recall?
at least that.
Well, are you now saying there was more than one thing?
There may have been. I was going through a lot of reports, including the trial testimony. There was something in there that was inaccurate.
Okay, let's go to the second full paragraph on the second page. After the composite drawing was completed, do you see that?
Yes.
After the composite drawing was completed, a photo lineup was brought in for Bjornson to look at. Based on the photos collected, Kusche stated that he could pick out Avery as the person who most closely matched the composite drawing.
Yes.
Did you tell that to the agents?
Yes.
All right. Kusche relayed that he was not in the room when Bjornson picked Avery out of the photo lineup.
That's not correct.
Did you tell that to the agents?
No.
That's directly contrary to your testimony today.
That's directly contrary?
Okay, when Kusche finished his drawing, he stated that he left the room. Kusche said he currently has the original composite drawing in his possession.
Yes.
Did you leave the room when you finished the drawing?
After everything was done and...
Later on?
Yeah.
After the photo array was done?
Sure, after the photo array.
But you were there when the photo array was done?
Yes.
Is that what you're saying?
Yes, because otherwise this doesn't make any sense. It says Kusche could pick out Avery as the person most close. I wouldn't have seen the photo. I wouldn't know that until the photo array was done. So I had to be there during the photo array.
Unless the sheriff showed you the photos.
Which he didn't. Well, I mean, he did when he laid them on the table.
Okay, that's all I've got. Oh, hold on for one moment.
I hate that.
Was there only one composite that was prepared by you in this case at any time, whether at the hospital or elsewhere?
Yes.
Do you recall someone saying after Penny Bjornson had been interviewed, that sounds like Stephen Avery?
Yes.
Okay, do you recall someone saying after seeing the composite, that looks just like Stephen Avery?
Yes.
Do you remember who the person was who, after seeing the composite, said, that looks just like Stephen Avery?
Immediately at the hospital?
Yeah.
No.
Might have been Judy Dvorak?
Might have been.
Might not have been?
Yes.
Okay, and the person who said it, it sounds like Stephen Avery, might have been Judy Dvorak, might not have been.
Might not have been.
Okay, that's all I've got.
Holland, the original exhibit 154.
Let's go off the record for a moment.
Okay. Reporter, are we going to close the record or just off the record for a moment?
Let's go off the record for a moment.
Okay, they're off the record for, looks like 7 minutes. Back on the record.
I'm going to make, this is Mr. Kelly speaking. I'm going to make a record on the fact that I have requested that Exhibit 154 be delivered to me and kept with the other original exhibits in the case. Mr. Pollen and the other defense counsel and the witness that think that is at the moment an inappropriate placement of Exhibit 154. The witness's thought is that it has been released to him by judicial order from the judge who presided in the criminal case. And Mr. Pollen is of the view that for the time being, the safest thing to do is for him to take possession of 154 and inquiry be made of either Judge Hazelwood or Judge Hazelwood's successor about the placement of Exhibit 154 during the pendency of this case. In addition, Mr. Glenn and I have represented to counsel for the defense that we will notify them soon about whether or not we're going to seek that 154 be placed in the custody of the presiding federal court judge in this case.
Holly, sure, I agree. That's a fair representation. Bascom, except for the fact that I don't object to any counsel taking possession or control of the original exhibit. I don't care who has it. I just want to make sure that whoever does take control and possession of it maintains it in its original form, and that before any deconstruction or deconstructive testing or examination of the interior portions of this exhibit, there would be a protocol established and everybody would have an opportunity to have people present and have it videotaped, etc., which is normally done in these cases.
If you want to give it to me, those conditions are all perfectly agreeable to me.
So we'll find out after we get Judge Fox's order. We can work on something out. We can work something out amongst ourselves and arrive at a conclusion that's agreeable to everyone. Pollen, sure.
Okay.
Pollen, I'm sure that we'll be able to work that out.
All right.
And I guess that's it. Now we got 500 pages of index, as y'all can see. I'm popping champagne. We're done with depositions.
Wow.
Yeah. Great job, ladies. That was fantastic. You did a wonderful job.
It was interesting, for sure.
So he doesn't know shit about shit.
Well, yeah. Well, he had to deny everything, and
Sure, because
he
didn't have to contradict anyone else that had gone before him.
Well, right, and he had to run from that deposit or that drawing. He had to.
Wasn't Kusche there watching everything too?
No, he didn't.
He wasn't?
No, this one. No, he went to a couple, but no, he didn't go to this one, which is a little surprising, but not completely shocking. He went to, I think he was at Kalanzik's deposition. Seemed me like there was another one or two he was also at. I have to go back and look. Actually, may have been more than. I'm just trying to remember. I'm thinking in my mind there were 4, maybe 5 that he was there, and of course, before August 15th. What the hell's her name? Avery's girlfriend. My mind just went completely blank.
Jody
Stokowski. She was at all of them until she had to turn herself in at the jail in the middle of August. And a few others. There were a witness or 2 here and there, but I'm a little surprised he didn't show up at Kusche's deposition.
Yeah, I think it would make me nervous to have that. If I was in their shoes and had that evilness staring at me while I was.
No, there's no doubt.
I'm gonna be drinking poison Coke or something.
Yeah, or
like
plan
that.
on get completely wasted that night. But again, you could tell Kusche. He's sharp. This guy's really sharp, and he got pinned up there pretty bad, and tried to dance. Well, he did dance all the way around it. I didn't see that photo. No way. Well, then how come your tracing here looks exactly like what Avery looked like in the January '85 photo? What's going on with that? I didn't see it.
Yeah, and you're a shitty liar.
Hey, there's Doc. What's up, Doc? You're certainly welcome to jump in if you wish. I've made a kind of a big deal of these depositions, and because to me they are a big deal. This is reading through we have the material for the civil case. There was a lot of bouncing back and forth between the lawyers, and Kosorik's lawyer, they tried all kinds of they tried all kinds of stuff. Cusor tried to get it through that, his testimony should be limited, and some things should be excluded when he was at the sheriff's department. And the judge said, no, you're going to testify in full. And then, of course, his insurance company, State Farm, he tried to get them, his homeowner's insurance, to cover him should he be required to pay any damages. And they filed a motion to exclude themselves if he did anything that went out of his charge as officer. They're not going to pay that if he did something intentional. I mean, come on, man. That's not the insurance. That's not what it's for. If you're being sued for defamation or something of that nature, there may be some clause in there for that. But as a police officer, they're not going to cover that.
Yeah, if it was an honest mistake, which they tried to say it was, it would be one thing. People make mistakes, but that's not the case here.
No, not at all. And nice comment from Donna Wolfwich. Thank you all so much for all you're doing in the case. I have a lot of catching up to do, but finding it all so interesting and appreciate your reading of all these documents. Well, you're welcome. The depositions have been they've been hard to get through because, a lot of them are really interesting. We found out a lot of information and understanding the fact that, and I'm not sure if you understand this, Donna, but, there was immediately after Avery was released in September of 2003, Peg Laugenschlager, or how you say her name, she was the AG at the time. She ordered an investigation. Well, that went to DCI agents Amy Lehman and Deb Strauss to do these interviews with all these various people. And we have all these interviews. We were lucky to get those through the Coburn v. Netflix lawsuit. We didn't have them for years, but in 2022, there was an exhibit released with all of them. So during these depositions, Glenn and Kelly, Avery's lawyers, had all of these statements that these people made. So they were armed with that, plus exhibits that we don't have. We don't have the exhibits, unfortunately. I'd hope that, once we got one of those exhibits that had all of these different reports attached, it was a really, really long exhibit. It's 500, 600, 700 pages. I don't know. I split them all up into their individual files, so you don't have to scan through. You know who you're reading. But I'd hoped at some point after that the exhibits would be included, but they're not. And I know that I've requested them from Zellner's. Allegedly has all of the exhibits and all the depositions, and I have made a request to her for those, but I never heard anything. So anyway.
We had that same thing happen with Daniel's case where we got transcripts but not exhibits because they had been returned. I think they said they had been returned to the attorney, or
probably, yeah. I know that Glenn or Kelly kept everything, and then when Zellner took the case, I guess they turned everything over to her so she could continue the record, because I would imagine they've been retired for many years at this point. They were not young when all this took place. So James Crane, like burning your house down and trying to collect on. Yeah, that's exactly right, James. It's not gonna.
Did you guys answer the Nan's Life 7's 939.05 modifier question before I came on?
No, I missed the question.
Is it normal to add the 939.05 modifier to the charges as they did with Stephen Avery and Brendan Dassey? I don't know what that is.
I'd have to look it up. I'm not sure what that modifier is.
I don't either. No.
There's Doc.
Hey, how's it going?
Well, we're done.
Yeah, I heard most of that. Yeah, excellent read, guys. Fantastic.
Yeah, they did a great job. They really went through it really well. there's so much lost in the depositions. Like I said, I so wish we had the video version, because you miss the body language and facial expressions and
Right. I remember in the part I saw of him, he was being super smug, which is his normal.
Oh yeah. Well, he's got that arrogance about him, because again, this guy's really smart. There's just absolutely no doubt in my mind. He is very intelligent.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But not only that, I agree with what Katie just said. There was a high degree of arrogance and smugness, because he knew exactly what to say, and to make sure that he didn't incriminate himself or others. But you could tell that Kusche was a major player, a central character in all of this. And what impressed me was the meticulous work done by Stephen civil suit attorneys, in the manner and in the way they questioned all the people that were in the civil suit depositions. They basically hung themselves. And we mustn't forget that the two guys that were up next was Kacerik and Vogel. And I tell you what, I would have bought tickets to go and hear those depositions.
Let me see if I can share this. I don't know if this will play or not, but while we're talking about him, let me remove this. Add the stage. Okay. Yeah, you remember John Ferrat got, I think, 6 or 7 clips of various people.
Yes.
This is Gene Kusche. Let me see if it'll play. I don't know that it will, but I'm going to try it.
Did you ever have a conversation
Can y'all hear that?
with Kusche about why he lost confidence in you?
Yes.
Yes.
I asked him, why did you do this? And he said, because I lacked tact.
And did you respond to that?
Yes, I said, Tom, tact on your department was the ability to smile at somebody's face while you stabbed them in the back, which was a tactless thing to say.
And what did he say to that?
I don't think he responded.
Okay. Any further conversations you've had with Larry Conrad about this case, apart from the one you've told us about after he testified?
Oh, before, I mean...
Y'all see what's in the background?
Again, like, what's happening, what's the story, what's going on. The question of where the hair came from, nobody seems to know.
Where what hair came from?
The hair the DNA came from. No one seems to know where that came from.
Who's discussed where the hair came from for the DNA?
I did.
I'll pause that for just a second. Yeah, I did. I was just going to do that. Go ahead, Doc.
It's very, very interesting. I got into a rather interesting debate with Mr. Kratz about this very, very same concept. He was basically questioning it and actually mirroring what Gene Kusche was talking about here. So let's get this straight. Let's get this straight, right? When Penny Bernstein went to the hospital, as part of the if an individual is attacked or sexually assaulted, the SANE nurse does a examination on the patient.
Yep.
And that involves there are certain swabs, and there's also a hairbrush in the kit. And what they do is they do a I know this is sensitive material, but they do a pubic hair combing.
Yep.
Of Penny Bernstein. So the whole idea of that is if there's any incriminating forensic evidence in Penny Bernstein's pubic hair region, they collect it. They collect the hairs, the pubic hairs. Once all the kit is done, the kit is properly documented and it is sealed, right?
Yep.
It is
That's right.
absolutely sealed to make sure that nobody tampers with it. Now, there's no question about it that the hairs would have been examined, and there's clearly evidence, a trail of evidence when somebody opens up the kit and examines the material. Back in 1985, they didn't have DNA analysis, right? Nothing like we've got today. So, as you know, no one should be tampering with that sex assault kit. The allegation that Kusche and also now Mr. Kratz is making on X is that they're questioning the origin of Gregory Allen's pubic hair. So you can see here Kusche saying, well, where did the hair come from? I'm allowed to ask where the hair came from. And this is actually rather disturbing because who is going to get access to Gregory Allen's pubic hair,
Yep.
go to the clerk's office, open up the kit and add Gregory Allen's pubic hairs to the kit in order to exonerate Stephen Avery? And this is the madness of what's being presented by Kusche and also by Mr. Kratz and others. They're not the only ones, because if you don't believe in the sanctity of the forensic evidence that was gathered, it means that every sex assault kit can be potentially tampered with. You know the implications of that, right, guys?
Yeah, and one more thing to add to that, Doc. Wouldn't Culhane or whoever opened that package once it got to the crime lab said, hey, this has been opened and resealed? Because it would have had to have been taped.
Correct.
It had. And no report like that was made.
Absolutely correct. You know, and it's rather staggering the length that these individuals go to. The reason why they do it, guys, is because they can't admit that they made a mistake.
That's right.
They can't say, sorry, we got it wrong. So they've got to go into the twilight zone and come up with these unbelievable situations whereby, how did Gregory Allen's pubic hair end up in the sex assault kit of Penny Bernstein?
That's right.
And the other disturbing thing that Kusche said was the fact that DNA evidence can be tampered with.
Yep.
You put the two statements together, it puts a spotlight on the Wisconsin State Crime Lab.
Well, he opened the door to Pandora's box.
Yes, he did. But it's also highly disrespectful for Penny.
Oh yeah.
And also for the pathologists. I think there were pathologists who had collected the pubic hair combing. They also collected the sheet that Penny Bernstein was on to collect forensic evidence as well. So if you question that process, all bets are off. All bets are off.
Well, and I'm not sure if you were listening at the time, had got on at the time, but you know, Glenn really pushed him hard talking about this drawing as compared to the Avery's January '85 photo,
Yes.
and it looked just like it.
Yes. The amazing thing. Sorry, Jackson.
I was just going to say, and Kusche trying to dance all the way around this whole thing.
Correct. He essentially got caught red-handed, and that's because of the meticulous work done by the attorneys. They'd done their homework. They'd looked at the pictures, and they go, "Jeepers, this is a pattern match from the earlier mugshot of Stephen Avery."
That's right.
100%. And remember what Brenda Schuller tried to do to us, the argument that we had when we said, nah, that picture was traced. Oh, no, the hair, and I even showed it, the curl of Stephen Avery's hair in the mugshot and his drawing was exactly the same.
That's right.
Exactly the same. No one draws a hair curl randomly that just matches the earlier mugshot of Stephen. He got caught red-handed.
He did.
Because Kusche is such a crafty guy, because he's such a senior person, he had to try and bluff his way out of it. But he got caught.
He got caught.
And in the cookie jar.
Can you imagine this being put in open court?
Oh, God.
This could not happen. And they knew it. They absolutely knew that.
Correct.
And so he's not as smart as everyone keeps giving him credit for. He's actually really dumb.
Well, he got caught for sure. I think that, at the time they thought they were being smart, but yeah.
He should have known better than to trace the picture. I mean,
absolutely.
Especially the curl,
Oh, yes.
Ridiculous.
Yes. But you know what, guys? Not even in their wildest nightmare did they ever think that Stephen was going to be exonerated.
No.
So, in essence, they thought they got away with it.
DNA in ’85 was just a
dream.
It was just a dream.
Just starting to come out. Yeah.
Yeah. And it took, they had to have a huge sample, number one. And number two, it took forever for the process to finalize. It was like over a year, wasn't it, Doc? It was like a really long time.
Yeah. In 1985, that's when I was doing my PhD. The new techniques were coming out, but they were relatively primitive. They were looking at polymorphic markers. Back then, it was Alec Jeffreys who had started this ball rolling. But certainly, in terms of PCR and all this type of analysis, that was going to come much later. They never ever thought that they were going to get caught red-handed. Yeah, it truly is a shock.
Yeah, and I mean, to me, this is a classic case of a department that literally did get caught with their hand in the cookie jar. They really did.
Yeah, correct. And that's why the civil suit was going to be highly favorable for Stephen Avery. I know a lot of people try and trivialize it, but when you think all the dominoes were in a row, right? The civil suit attorneys had all the evidence, that everything that they needed, and the two critical witnesses here were Dvorak and Kusche, right? Notice how they were going back and forward between what Dvorak said and what Kusche said, and how Kusche kept on denying who that person said. Oh, that looks like Stephen Avery.
Oh, I don't recall. I can't remember.
Correct.
He didn't set a record with the I don't recall, but he said it quite a bit. And
I think, and I could have. He could have.
Yeah, he wouldn't commit.
Jeez.
Well, he realized that if he actually admitted to having traced that picture, he was going to be in deep trouble, probably criminal charges as well.
Very possible.
Yeah.
But we looking beyond this, was just slightly beyond all this, is what they allowed Gregory Allen to get away with, because he continued his path of destruction. We don't really know how many victims between this time and when he finally got caught. We do know there were a couple that happened before the 1991 case in Minnesota, and then of course, but I feel strongly, because he was such an aggressive type. I don't really know what to call him except a monster.
He was a sexual predator, a very nasty sexual predator.
He was. So we don't really know how many times he did it and just didn't get called in as a suspect. We just don't.
Yes, and the other thing, of course, is that a lot of women, and I guess also men as well, they don't report because of the
They don't
embarrassment.
That's right. They don't report. They don't want to deal with it. They're just like, whatever, and move on. Deal with it best they can. You're right. Anyway, let's listen to the rest of Kusche here before we get out of here for the night.
Okay. With whom?
Sheriff Kusche, Larry Conrad, Don Belts.
How many times with Kusche?
A couple of times, maybe.
How many times with Conrad?
Perhaps a couple.
And with Bells?
Maybe once.
Did any one or more of you in the course of those conversations doubt the validity of the DNA examination?
We don't know where it came from.
So?
We're detectives. We want to know where the evidence came from. Just because something exists doesn't mean it's probative. I want to know where it came from.
Okay. Was there any speculation about where it might have come from?
Projected form cause for speculation.
You can answer.
They said that someone put a
Chris or Christopher Jackson.
blanket or a towel on her at the scene. Could have been a transfer from that. Don't know. I don't know where it came from.
Did any one or more of you, including Sheriff Kusche, make any effort to find out, by any means whatsoever, where the hair came from?
Objective form of the question.
You can answer.
I asked the county's attorneys when I was questioned at one time, and they basically refused to say anything. Says,
Okay. He goes on and he says, referring to you, he then told me that in 95 or 96, Andy Colburn had told Tom Kusche, former Manitowoc County Sheriff, that an officer from Brown County had told Colburn that Allen and not Avery might have actually committed the Bernston assault. Okay? That is what Exhibit 124 says, correct?
that's correct.
Okay. Did you in fact tell that to Douglas Jones?
I don't recall.
All right. Does seeing this document 124 refresh your recollection?
No.
All right. Do you have any reason to disbelieve what this document says you told Doug Jones?
I recall Coburn saying something to me, and I might have said something to him on the side. I don't know if Tom Kuscher's name came into it. I don't recall that.
All right. Anything else with respect to that sentence?
Again, that's all I can recall.
So you knew about Gregory Allen in 1995 or
No,
96
no,
because Tom Colburn told you?
No, he didn't tell me that in 1995, 96.
Okay.
He said he had the conversation in 95, 96.
All right.
I didn't hear about it till in passing, talking to Andy at one time, something being said probably within a matter of a couple, 3 months of this conversation occurring.
What happened within a couple of 3 months of this conversation?
Andy making a comment to me about this. Because I said this thing comes up with conversations. And he may have said something that it would not necessarily have been important to me that I would file it away for future memory, and might have just made an aside comment at the end of a telephone conversation. But I did not receive that information in 95, 96. At that time, I was chief investigator and would have done something. And then I made this comment. I probably asked him, was Link, who was my replacement, aware of this? And that's how I would imagine I said that Detective Link was aware. He was not that until he didn't take command of that bureau until 2003.
Yeah, that conversation, that was another thing. This alleged conversation happened, I like 2 or 3 months before this statement in 2000. When Avery got out.
Yeah, in 2003.
Yeah, yes, I just went blank. September 11th, 2003. They had this alleged conversation. That was a weird one too. That he didn't push him real hard on, but they did push a little bit, which shouldn't have really happened. I mean, it's just so strange that they had this conversation just a few months before Avery's released. That didn't sound right.
No, but I think they knew what was going to happen. Remember, Culhane had that sample for about a year.
Yeah.
I do not believe that she didn't test that sample immediately, because that would have been high priority. So if she actually knew what the result was, she may have informed the superiors that, hey, guys, Houston, we've got a problem, a huge problem.
Something's coming down the pike.
Something is coming down the pipe. Now, I know that Culhane actually did the test twice to confirm the result. But the incredible thing is that when she got the result from the pubic hair, she placed it in the database and got a hit. And the hit came back to Gregory Allen, right?
Yep.
So she would have known immediately. Remember the report that she wrote? Oh, we need a forensic sample from Gregory Allen just to confirm the hit. So if she had told the superiors, hey, look, guys, the pubic hairs come back to Gregory Allen and not to Stephen Avery, we've got an issue here, it would have given them leeway time to work out a strategy, how they're going to cope with this. And it explains why Kusche has come up with the most ridiculous hypothesis that you could ever think of where the hell Gregory Allen's pubic hair came from.
I know. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. It's mind-blowing.
And did you hear what he said? Oh, maybe it got transferred to the sheet or the blanket.
I did hear that, but how? How could that possibly happen?
It's not. The actual pubic hair was found in the pubic hair combing, not on the sheet, which meant that the pubic hair of Gregory Allen was in the pubic hair region of Penny Bernstein. It's a direct contact. Somehow Mr. Kratz didn't understand that. And he put up a diagram. Now, wait for it on X. Oh, well, it had a follicle bulb. And if it had a follicle bulb, that means that it had to be plucked out. No, I found a scientific paper that actually showed the transference of pubic hairs from the male to the female or vice versa due to an assault or sexual intercourse. So pubic hairs can transfer across. And it's amazing. Even though the percentage is low, it does occur. So Kratz's insinuation was, well, somebody must have plucked it off Gregory Allen, and oh my God, it just happened to land in the sex assault kit that was sealed in Penny Bernstein pubic hair combing.
No way.
It's
preposterous.
That is one of the most bizarre theories I have ever heard.
And we're called conspiracy theorists, right?
Correct. It is I just stopped all form of conversation and contact. I'm not playing that game.
Sheree?
I have a question. Does it seems like Glenn and Kelly did not have that memo or whatever that
Doug Jones memo?
Yeah, the one is that the one in that talks about Kusche interviewing people in 95 or 96, because you would think he would have they would have said, okay, but what about this, you know?
They're talking in that particular portion of the video. They're talking about the Doug Jones memo, and
So it is. So they did talk to him about it. So they must have had it because he
Glenn and
said
Kelly,
he didn't talk about it till didn't really know
right?
anything about the Colburn call and all that.
Well, they're just basing it off the statements in the Doug Jones memo. The only other contact, and I mean with Kusche of reports that we have, is the one that I think it's also I'm pretty sure it's attached in the description of this one. He did those Kusche did these interviews in '96 of Jadowski, Kolanzik, Red Nicholson. I think it was those three that he did. He took these depositions from them. But we don't have any other reports about any contact. They're just going on what Jadowski had and these other people had said about it. They can't prove it. It's just what they said, right?
Okay.
There's if I could just add this,
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if they still have that sex assault kit with the pubic hairs, because Culhane said that only 2 of them were suitable for forensic DNA analysis. Now there is a laboratory, I believe it's in the US, that can extract genomic DNA from pubic hairs that don't have a root.
Oh, that would be interesting.
Oh, yeah. So it's been achieved, but it is a specialist laboratory that can do it. And it'll be very interesting to see if they go back and read. I doubt that they will, because Stephen Avery was exonerated for that. But now they have the ability to extract DNA from pubic hairs or hairs that don't have a follicle bulb.
That's very interesting. I would imagine that kit would have been resealed and repackaged.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, anyway, any more questions? I see there's a few comments. I see Jamie's joined us. Blue acid fusion. Yellow, Mr. President. Well, this has been it's been an interesting project. It's pretty infuriating to listen to some of these as well, because we can look at it and say, "Come on, man, are you kidding? Are you kidding me?" But I think this is a good time to call it good. We were just a little bit late. I apologize for that, but we're done with the depositions. Thank God. I really appreciate, I know everybody at Foul Play appreciates you guys that are interested. Not everyone's interested in the depositions, and I get it, but for me, and a lot of people, I mean, it's not just me. There have been a lot of people over the years that once we really learned some things about the depositions, we really wanted them. And so, we raised the funds several years ago and were able to buy them all. The transcripts anyway. We couldn't get the videos, unfortunately, but they've been a really great learning process. And then the reports are interesting as well, and all those are available. They've been all up there. They're all in the library. These DCI reports that Amy Lehman and Deb Strauss did, they're really interesting too, and they reference these throughout all the depositions. I don't think I think the only one that the DCI agents didn't talk to was Sandra Morris, I think. There may have been one more, but pretty much for everyone else, there was a DCI report where these people had been interviewed. Oh, Henry Lee Lucas! Oh my God! Remember that documentary, Doc? Everybody, with Henry Lee Lucas, what he did.
Yeah.
That was crazy. That's a crazy documentary. Anyway, unless anybody's got anything else, I'm going to get us out of here. I'm getting pretty hungry. I imagine maybe Cherie, if you haven't eaten, same for you. Glad you're safe. There's Kay and Sister Susan. I see Susan's in the live chat as well. Glad you're safe.
Yeah, we're just glad it moved out of here so we can sleep.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, that'd be pretty damn nerve wracking. All that tornadic activity around you. That'd be crazy.
It was something we haven't seen in, I don't know, 15 years or so. That
That's
much
crazy.
activity.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. Well, thanks for the reading. It was good.
Oh,
This was
thanks to
the
you
one
guys.
I was anxious to hear.
Yeah, but absolutely. This one was really interesting. I knew it would be. I'd read it a couple of times before, and it's what he doesn't say that makes it so interesting, and the things, the landmines he had to avoid.
And the ones he couldn't avoid.
Those two.
Yeah.
He got
But
cornered.
but he was a main player. He was one of the quintessential players in the whole setting up of Stephen Avery, and he was very, very complicit. And the whole scenario just reeks of corruption and investigator bias.
Absolutely.
It truly is so shocking, and that's why the depositions are so crucial. If you want to understand what happened in 2005, you got to go back to 1985. That's the genesis of what happened.
And then the investigation and the ensuing civil lawsuit, it's all connected.
Correct.
To me, it is. It's all connected. They said, "Oh no, it had nothing to do with nothing." Bullshit.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It really does.
Yeah, and the scary thing, of course, is that the person who is linking everything together is Sharif Cohen.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Who provided rubbish junk science hair evidence against Stephen in 1985, which got him in prison. His exoneration in 2003, and then her analysis in the 2005 murder investigation. You could not have dreamed of this. You could not have dreamed that.
No, you couldn't. And her work and what she did with the forensics in this case is shameful. It's absolutely awful. Even I could see that, and I don't have the years of study that Dr. Silkman does, and he's explained it very well, the process. And, I knew part of it prior, but, understanding the process of how obtaining a DNA sample really works, and why they do certain things, accredited labs, the reasons why they do it. And she just ignored it. It's like, I don't have to do that.
You have to have the highest standards and integrity as you possibly can, because the material you present in front of a judge and a jury can either be exculpatory or inculpatory, and it can lead to someone going to prison for life.
Yes, that's right. Exactly right. So anyway, I want to thank everyone for, again, following along. I know a lot of people have been here for pretty much every one of these with the depositions. I really appreciate it. I understand for people that are not really interested and don't follow along, and I get it. But from everybody here at Foul Play, we really thank you. Thanks for being in the live chat. If you're interested in what we do, please give us a like, a share, subscribe. We're glad that there's so much in the library that's available, free. If we don't have it in the library, you join Discord. Maybe it's something we can get it in the library for those, again, that are interested in these cases. They're truly interesting to me and still ongoing. We'll see what happens at the Court of Appeals, I guess, here in however long, several months, and go from there. But in the meantime, we're going to continue to keep these cases front and center. With that said, I'm going to say this has been Foul Play Production.